Yeah. Check with him, the other part. Tim, the recording's on? Okay, thank you, welcome all, to CB4's regular meeting, hello. It is now 6:05, we have, two, public hearing items on the agenda, and now we have, Brian Paul. Is he here? Here we go. Thank you, Director. He's the Deputy Director of New York City Council Planning and Land Use Division. Thank you.
Testing. Is it on? Okay. Hello. Okay. If anyone wants to see the presentation who's in the room more clearly, it's all the way over there. There's lots of seats if you want to move closer though. But that's the only screen we have here. Okay. Is there any way, can you make it full screen just a little bigger? Is that possible? Testing.
Hi.
She's got the mic over there. Okay.
Oh.
We're just seeing if we can go full screen. No, I'm good. I know if I heard this one, if anyone else can see it, but anyway. I'll go ahead. My name is Brian Paul. I'm from the City Council Planning and Land Use Division. That is the group of planners and attorneys and other staff who staff the City Council, all the members, on issues around land use, zoning, housing policy. And we are trying to visit all the community boards this month to raise awareness of these questions that are on the back of the ballot when you vote on election day. Questions 2, 3, and 4 specifically have major changes to how housing and land use policy is decided in New York City. And what you actually look at the ballot, the language will be very simple. Do you want faster, affordable housing? Do you want a quicker process? Do you want an appeals board? And it's not exactly clear what the ramifications of those changes are when you're just looking at the ballot. So we're going to try to talk through some of the details here, also how it might affect this board specifically if these proposals were adopted. Next slide, please. Okay, so the reminder, zoning is the very basic level, the rules that control the size and the use, housing, stores, industrial, what you can do with your property, what kind of building you can build. And if somebody wants to change, build a bigger building, build housing in an area where only commercial or industrial is allowed now, they have to go through a review process, right? And next slide, please. Right. Since 1989, that process has been the same. You may, you're on the community board, I'm sure you've heard ULURP before, Uniform Land Use Review Procedure. And this is a process that starts, it's about 6 months long, and it starts with the community board for 60 days. The community board hears the presentation and the community board decides to make, to vote yes or no or make recommendations. But that community board report is only advisory. If the community board votes no, they don't stop the project. Same with the borough president in the next stage. The borough president holds a hearing, does a report, but the borough president's report is just advisory in the current process. And then you have City Planning Commission, which is 13 members with 7 majority appointed by the mayor, 1 by each borough president, 1 by the public advocate, but it's majority mayor. They have 60 days. They decide what to do with the proposal, and if they decide to vote no, the project is done. So that's different from community board and borough president, right? Which is just advisory. City planning commission can say, no, we don't like the project, it's done. Same, and then the final stage in this process is the city council right now, which also has that same power as the city planning commission. If so, in this current, the way this often works currently is it's because the city council has that power at the end. They often are the body that takes up the recommendations made by the community board, made by the borough president, and is directly negotiating with either the mayor's agencies, if they're the ones bringing the application, or the developer at the end of the process, and getting agreements, making changes to the project based on what the community board and the borough president and the public have said throughout the process. Next slide, please. So just a quick points that the council is advocating for itself and believes it does a good job in this role, has the representative of community needs in this process. There's been, just since 2022, over 140,000 units of housing have been approved by city council in this process. So the council has not been this roadblock to housing getting approved. And a couple of examples of the process I just talked about. Next slide, please. Some tangible examples, one of which from this board I picked. So there's sometimes are these big neighborhood plans that come through this process. Last one in Brooklyn 4 years ago was the Gowanus plan. If you've been down there, you've seen all those new buildings going up. That's from that plan. And one very specific piece that a couple of pieces that the city council negotiated for at the end was in a lot of those buildings, there's going to be dedicated spaces for arts and community facilities. And then more importantly, the mayor at the time, de Blasio, agreed to set aside over $200 million to fully rehabilitate those two NYCHA developments, Wyckoff and Gowanus houses. And that's because the council member made that absolutely clear that was a condition that they were of them approving the plan. And so they were able to get use that power in ULERP to get that for the community. A more recent example, I'll jump all the way to the one on the right. Example, not more recent, example from this community board from 2018. If anyone was here back then, 7 years ago now, it was the 1601 DeKalb project. It's now being built, or it's almost done, I think. That project started review just as a 75% market rate, 25% affordable project. The community board and others in the community made it very clear that they wanted to see 100% affordable development if that rezoning was going to be allowed, and the council members took up that call, and they actually successfully got the applicant to agree to partner with a nonprofit, build 127 units of affordable and supportive housing instead of a mostly market rate development. Next slide, please. So you'll see on the ballot 3 questions, 2, 3, and 4. And number 2, you'll see on the label fast tracking affordable housing. Number 3, simplify review of modest housing and infrastructure. Number 4, establish an affordable housing appeals board. And there's not that much more explaining it on the ballot, and you're just being asked to vote yes or no. So what do these mean more in context for how things are done in New York? We'll just get a little bit into it. Next slide, please. Yeah. Thank you. So the first question, number 2, there's actually 2 parts to question 2. So it's a little more complicated. Actually, I think you skipped one slide. Sorry. Yeah, thank you. The first part of question 2 is called fast track. They call fast track for publicly financed affordable housing. Now I think this board actually had a similar experience with a project like this recently down by Broadway Junction. So it's not something that some developers have been trying this for 100% affordable housing at times, but it's not widespread yet. But this would make this a standard track for that kind of development. If you're the thing is, though, it's not actually set to be 100% affordable, but that's the intent. A affordable housing development can go through this faster process. That's just the BSA. So community board gets its hearing, community board issues a recommendation, but then right to the BSA, which is 5 people appointed by the mayor. And the rest of those stages, borough president, city planning, city council are out. Next slide, please. And so this sounds good in the abstract, again, on the ballot, but there's some real concerns with the way this is written. More generally, the process with the BSA, cuts out that role for the city council to take what the community board said and advocate for it, right? The BSA is 5 members appointed by the mayor, and they've often very narrowly look at application, and they're not going to advocate for things that a council member would advocate for, like deeper affordability, something for the infrastructure in the area, community needs, right? They're just going to narrowly look right at the development. But the way this question is also written, it's not totally clear that it would be only 100% affordable, and there's no definition of affordable. It could be high, like $3,000 a month or higher, stuff that's not really affordable. Maybe it's below what the luxury market is, but it's not deeply affordable. So that's question 2A. Next slide, please. 2B. It was just a little bit of lag when the slides moved. There we go. Okay. 2B is one that actually I can pretty confidently say never affect this community board, but it might affect Ridgewood right across the way and other parts of Brooklyn. The 12 community boards that produce the least affordable housing are selected and are put into this fast track for any kind of residential rezoning. It's not just for affordable. This is for like your 75% market rate buildings also. So these are things that would normally come through ULURP. If you're one of these 12 boards, you get put into this fast track category, where the council is removed from the process. Next slide, please. And again, the general concerns when thinking about this are you're taking a role from the local democratically elected representative and putting the decision entirely in the hands of a mayoral controlled body of unelected, an unelected commission, right? An appointed commission, majority by the mayor. And that it inherently reduces the influence of the local community in the process. And again, for this one, we'll go fast through this one because it won't apply to this board, but yeah, next slide, sorry. Just to show you where it would apply. Again, it's likely to be Southern Brooklyn, Eastern Queens, Staten Island, and parts of Manhattan when this is picked. So this board will not be affected by this particular proposal directly. But the next one, which is under question 3, question 3 is expedited process for modest changes. Yes, okay. And they're calling this ELURP. It's a new kind of LURP. Not a ULURP, but ELURP. And see the little diagram. This would be, again, a process that cuts out the city council, community board, and borough president get it simultaneously. It goes to city planning, and then you're done. And this is described as modest changes, this one, but that is very dependent on your actual context, whether you think that is modest or not, because we'll go to the next slide, please. If Yeah, not for this board. If you're in an area that is 1 and 2 family housing, this application, you can apply for 4-story apartments anywhere. That's 1 and 2 family homes. But for this board doesn't have zoning like that. For this board, it's this 30% increase. That is the issue, because there's parts, mostly in central Brooklyn and the Bronx, there's parts of the city that have this old zoning that is actually really permissive and bigger than what most of the buildings currently are. So that's why you see such oversized compared to the old buildings in Bushwick. It's got, the entire community board is R6 zoning. So if this question is approved, somebody could come assemble a property and make the zoning 30% bigger than that. So next slide. So 30%. So it's going from R6, question 3. The expedited LERP. Next slide, please. ELERP. And this is a good picture that shows. Again, it's lagging. Sorry. It's frozen up. There you go. Okay. So that's a little R7 building that's down on Linden Boulevard. So, and there's lots of areas in Bushwick, in Brownsville, in Prospect Lefferts. It's usually mostly boards 4, 16, 9, and 17 that have this problem with a really old zoning that is already very permissive. If you make that 30% bigger, that's actually a big change. It's like something that might be 14 stories going to 21 when you're talking about R6 to R7. So that for this board, that's probably the one to be most alert to, the question 3. And then I can go without it if it's messed up. It's okay. Question 4 is an appeals board. You can keep going. There's finally one more change, and that is any kind of application for housing with MIA, with any kind of affordable housing. There's a new process tacked on at the end where it can be appealed if the city council says no, or the city council modifies, that decision can be appealed up to a 3-member vote of the mayor, the speaker, and the borough president. And the concern to think about in that one is just the chaotic element that introduces into negotiations, where you're not, either the developer or the mayor is not sure who they're negotiating with. Are they negotiating with the city council? Or are they negotiating with the borough president? What if they don't like each other? They could be played against each other. If at the last moment, so we think that X is pushing too hard, we're going to go get this vote at the appeals board, and we're going to do a separate deal with the appeals board, and the council member that's been advocating for the community gets cut out. That's what can happen with appeals board. And I have just, as an example, I think that's most acute on when you're talking about these big neighborhood plans, where there's years of work with the council members, and the borough president's often involved. So this is not going to happen. Like, this is not going to be a problem in every instance, but it could be where there's very clear goals decided on. We want more affordable housing. We want money for parks. We want money to redo a street. And it's like this deal worked out over years, and that could be upended if it's not clear who the negotiating partner is at the end, right? Finally, okay, I think our final point we're trying to make is that even housing advocates like Furman Center, their own data that they've put out shows that neighborhood plans, again, these kind of things like Gowanus, where you're adding 10,000 units of housing, but it's paired with all this infrastructure and community benefits. That actually leads to more housing than these one-off developer applications, right? So this, yeah, the council thinks that planning with communities on neighborhood plans, on citywide zoning changes is actually the more effective way to address the housing crisis, and not these proposals that really just create these shortcuts for mayoral controlled bodies to take the reins of policy, basically. So I'm happy to answer questions, but yeah. Sorry, the presentation's not larger.
Thank you, Brian. We're going to let the welcome Councilmember Nurse. She's going to share a few remarks and then we'll go to questions and answers.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Brian, for going over this. I think Brian is being very modest in what this is, right? This is the city, this is the mayor essentially cutting the council out of the ability to lock in things that you all want, that you all advise us on, and that we codify in the process of approving this. They are skipping us out because community boards are advisory spaces. There's nothing that you produce, unfortunately, that holds anybody accountable. It's an advising space. It's a space for recommendations. And cutting out the council means we cannot hold them accountable. Now, to be fair, the council did provide a lot of recommendations into these proposals to help speed up the ULURP process. We weren't just no. For example, fast tracking affordable housing on public land where there were public dollars subsidizing this, no problem. We want to move those things faster. However, we asked for guardrails. We asked for the income bands and the rents of those units to be weighted to the community districts. We asked for a percentage of unit composition so that what gets built and what is usually presented to the council from HPD through public land projects are a lot of studios, 1 bedrooms, and 2 bedrooms. That is not enough to get the families that are doubled up in the railroads into better, newer housing, right? So who fights for the 3 and 4 bedrooms is the council. And the way that we can do that is because we have the power of our rezoning vote. And because each member, the members give their power to the member negotiating and saying, we are going with you, which brings that developer and the city agencies, which generally bring us subpar applications, allows us to improve them. I am not optimistic we are going to defeat these proposals. So it is very important that if you feel the way I feel, which is livid about this, that you spread the word. This could have been better, and we could have maybe come to a better agreement on this, but unfortunately, we got this was retribution. We spent a lot of time doing City of Yes. Everybody that's in this room and on the board spent a lot of time putting effort and thinking towards figuring out how can we advance City of Yes, even though there was a lot of people who didn't like it. You still showed up, you put in labor, and we came to an agreement. And because they didn't get everything they wanted, this is what we have. This is essentially a fast track for developers, both nonprofit and private. But even nonprofit developers do not always present the best projects for the communities that they want to build. That has been the power we've had to make those projects better. When you want to put thousands of units somewhere, you need other amenities that go with that we negotiate based on what you all advise: schools, better roads, better parks, maintenance, all of that money, all of those things, all of those essential requirements that come with this development. And these developments are what we negotiate because we listen to you all. And they are taking out the ability to hold that accountable. I think this is a disingenuous, nefarious proposal. And I really hope you all pay attention to this, and it is moving quickly. And I really hope that you all spread the word that people should be paying attention to these things. Referendums on ballots are nearly impossible to stop because, and particularly the way in which this one is worded, is so disingenuous and so misleading that most people will say yes. I don't know what the ramifications will be in terms of the council's ability to fix these proposals later. What we can do legislatively, what we're going to be able to do to say, okay, if you want to build in the district and you want to only give us zeros, 1 bedroom and 2 bedrooms, how are we going to get other things that we need? I don't know what the recourse is going to be. So I'm just trying to impress on you how serious this is. Just this year, we were able to secure one of the first 4-bedroom projects on public land that is going to be 100% affordable project. That didn't happen without the council. 5 4-bedrooms, that's all we got. It's 2% of the project. We wouldn't have even gotten that. So it is so important to understand that the council has been the voice. This particular council has been super pro housing, 142,000 units approved. We've not said no to projects. And we have overridden other members bad members who said no to projects in their districts. I'm doing it all the time with one of my neighboring council members. So I just really hope everyone pays attention. Unfortunately, the behavior of some council members has put us in this position where you see that on the map, the 12 districts that haven't done their fair share. Bushwick has done their fair share. East New York has done their fair share, and Brownsville has done their fair share. And we are being penalized with a blanket solution despite the fact that we have provided. So I leave it with that, but I just want to say Brian was being very nice about the whole thing. So thank you.
We have our other council, Jennifer Gutierrez.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. No, I think we should stay on topic. I do have other announcements, but I can wait. So we're on the agenda. Thank you all so much. Really good to see everyone. I know I've seen sprinkles of folks here at different meetings. I was out for a little bit. I had a whole other baby. She's healthy. She's great. I'm here. And I caught the tail end of what my colleague and friend here said, and just want to re-emphasize the value of what you all do when you vote for us to send us to City Hall. And so what the council traditionally does is pass legislation, allocate funding, and vote on really important land use projects. And so many of you here were intimately involved with the Bushwick Community Plan here. And whether or not it moved forward, what we were able to get in projects like 349 Sudan and now what we're going to see over at Willoughby came from community feedback, came from what you were all asking for. And so I do think that it is this administration's motives to promote housing. And like Councilmember Nurse said, we've been pro-housing, North Brooklyn, Bushwick, Williamsburg, Greenpoint, East New York. We've always been pro-housing. We haven't been blanket pro-housing. We haven't blindly walked into any negotiation, said, sure, we'll take whatever you can give us. That has never been the case. You all were very vocal in the city of yes, and we took those recommendations and we fought for y'all and we got exactly what you all wanted. So removing us is like removing y'all from this process. Supporting these ballot measures is removing your opinions, your on the ground feedback from this process. So I know that Brian is here to give you all the information. You know Brian, he is an expert. He's going to give you the information as it is. Councilmember Nurse and I are here to give you the real deal. And we really need your support. So really think about what you all are doing when you're supporting or opposing these proposals. I will be opposing these ones that acutely diminish the role of the council, because that's not what you all send me to City Hall to do. So I hope that you all consider that, and thank you.
Anyone has any questions?
Stephanie Anderson, CB4. I wanted to ask, oh, and thank you so much for your presentation. That was great. Is there a minimum of units required to serve low income tenants? Because you said that affordable is kind of a debatable word.
No, yeah, that's one of the unfortunate things about the way these were written, is that they're, even the two, in question 2, when it's framed as a fast track to BSA for 100% affordable, there's no clear definition like that. X number of units have to be deeply affordable. Nothing can be above this rent. There's not, it's very loose. No, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anyone?
Milagro Sandoval, Community Board 4. Other than you coming to the board and kind of semi-explaining what this is all about, right? Because it's trash. Who is going to, other than us, of course, informing others about this on the ballot? What are you guys doing to inform the constituents, people that vote, about this?
Yeah, well, yeah, council
Whatever he is, but
is we're doing these presentations at community boards, explaining it, because now some boards are also being visited by the commission that is supporting the initiatives. So there, and that, if you've seen that presentation, it's very biased the other way. So we're making sure to try to visit every community board this month. There's mailers going out on education, and the objective is to unpack so that people know more when they see that simple question: accelerate affordable housing. What does that really mean? Because it's not,
Like,
Yeah.
as members, we can come in here and say whatever we want. We are unbound. We are candidates, and we are also elected officials. Brian cannot, because technically now this is a campaign issue. And so he is a government employee, so he can do educational information, but he cannot persuade you. He can just tell you what it is. Jen and I are telling you what our opinion is. Now, we have sent out a piece of mail. You should all have a piece of mail. Hopefully that's coming to your thing. That takes money, what the council can do to that. The other side has a PAC, I believe, a $3 million pot that they're working with. We don't have that. And so the way this is, again, when I say this is nefarious and this is retribution, the way that they rolled this out, it was steamrolled, it was fast tracked, it was quick. And so there's the smallest window of time to help people understand what this is. So the answer is not really anybody.
I'll just add the one thing, you'll see the wording. I don't know if it's in the mailer, but it's very flowery and positive, right? And when you all go to vote, and I appreciate for those of you that text me, like, what does this actually mean? Because it's a lengthy paragraph, right? And then the Spanish translation is like not all there. I can tell you as someone that speaks Spanish. So it's intended to be kind of misleading. And so when you go, it'll just say like, do you support affordable housing and do you support any means to get there? Like most New Yorkers, absolutely, but it doesn't go into detail in the way that we're doing that right now. But it is this administration's will. It was this mayor's commission, which, by the way, for those of you that have been alive for a long time, how often does a mayor do this twice in a single 4-year term? not often, right? And so this was very much motivated by special interests. And I want you all to remember that because it doesn't have to move in this way. The mayor right now could help fast track affordable housing projects by investing money to build more affordable housing faster. He can do that right now. He doesn't need all of this. Doesn't need to circumvent a city process. But to answer your question, there's no real infrastructure to oppose this because of the speed. But we are concerned because of the language, right? This is not enough. What you all can provide and what we are doing is not enough.
Anyone else?
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Pamela Fernandez. I'm the constituent liaison for Assemblymember Eric Delon's office. I just wanted to piggyback a little bit. This is also out of my role in the Assembly Member's office. This is actually as my role as a trainer for the Board of Election. When it comes to proposals and things that they are putting on the ballot, as a poll worker, we're told that we cannot let our voters know anything that's going on the proposal. It is for the voter to go out and find out this information themselves, right? If voting is something that's important to us, we should be doing our due diligence as voters and going out and finding that information. We as community members also have the responsibility to go out and tell our other constituents what's going on and how important these things are, because there's a lot of infrastructures going on that they do not want to let our voters know exactly what these proposals are saying because it's meant to mislead our voters.
I got one hand and I got two. I'm sorry. And I have you here and one more there and we're gonna.
I just want to say I received my notice from the council today in the mail. And that's Spelling, Community Board 4. I received my notice this morning, today, in the mail. But rumor has it that there are 6 proposals on the ballot. You're only here talking about 3. Are there 3 others that we should know something about?
Yeah.
Right? Oh, sorry.
Number 1 is something about the Adirondacks that I know, right? Yeah.
That was a good question. Number 1 is something that's not happening in New York City. It's in New York State. It's allowing the expansion of new ski trails in the sports complex in Essex County. So that's upstate New York. 3 through 4. And then 6 is moving elections to presidential
yeah.
election years.
Right. So there are 6, right? Number 1 is Adirondacks, something. 2, 3, and 4 are the ones that we're raising the awareness on. Number 5 is this proposal that would move the city map from these giant old libraries in the borough president's offices into digital. Been kind of agnostic on that. It's, seems innocuous policy wise. And number 6 is this change to even year, so you would have the local, the mayor and the council on the same election cycle as president and state reps and Congress. That one, yeah, we're not talking about right now either.
I have 2 more, one here and someone else. I think up there.
I just wanted to say that there was a Matt Timms, George Street. There's this new building that emerged across the street from us, and the affordable housing is a 2-bedroom that's $3,685. So if you wanted numbers, that's a number. That's insane. And so yeah, that's happening all the time.
Anyone else? Seeing no one, I just want to thank our elected officials, and I also, or we have people on Zoom. I also let them. You can let them speak on Zoom.
One hand.
Or Zuma. Muted.
I'm not sure what.
Yes, hi, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
All
Hello?
right, I just want to say thank you, both of our council. I'm gonna take my hat to the side as the chair of CB4 and let y'all know this is horrendous. I'm not voting on any of those ballots. I don't care who it is. I don't care what's on there. They can't tell me if they want to keep my check, borough president, they want to keep my check, I don't get paid. We can't keep doing this. You know, we made a plan in 2015 and our fearless mayor de Blasio, they shot it down and they said no. And look what we got. I know we had people from within this community that live here, now no longer live here, that were protesting in this very same meeting when I became the chair in 2019, and they said they didn't want. And 95% of those people that said they didn't want our plan don't live in Bushwick and go to Bushwick Avenue. Now, what they're doing now to Bushwick Avenue, they're taking the 1 and 2 family homes and making all these giant storages that look like Bushwick Avenue looks like Manhattan. So we got to educate anyone that has a family that is voting. Talk to them, tell them in Spanish, this is not for us. This is not for us, and this is not for us. So we really all got to get together that day and start letting people know. You have to let people know, because at the end of the day, tomorrow is never guaranteed. So we want to make sure that Bushwick is very well represented, and the people that are not doing their fair share, to make sure they do their fair share in housing, because everybody needs it, whether you're on one side or another, or on this side, you do. And there is a crisis. You're 100%. A crisis in regards to affordability. That's our crisis. Because I know apartment houses that are empty now, that they're not taking you because you don't make that kind of money. So there is a crisis. So you can build more, but you got to build it where the community can afford to live here. So I echo you, and I thank you for coming here and letting us know, people that lived here when rent was only $700, $800, and now you're talking about $3 grand, $4 grand, that are people that were here and we had nothing. So Hope Garden was nothing but a lot. So we really need to focus on that. And we want to thank you, Brian, for giving us. I know you couldn't tell us how to vote, but I'm going to tell our people how to vote. So thank you. Yeah, I remember when he had hair, so I know that he's been working hard and telling us how. So thank you, guys.
All right, we will move on now to the next agenda item, which is going to be an overview of the board's budget committee meeting. This was on Wednesday, September 25th. I will just provide an overview. This year, for the first time, there was a brief district needs narrative discussion. For those that are unfamiliar, the board is charter mandated, one of the 2 primary charter mandates. One we've talked about at length, which is the ULURP process. The other is the Statement of Community District Needs and Budget Requests, which are prepared annually at the very beginning of the fiscal year. So we hear a lot about the council members' participatory budgeting. We hear a lot about this discretionary funding for our council members, for our state elected officials. This is the very beginning of the city's budget process that will technically inform, right, at its best, what the agencies fund and what the council members may also seek to supplement with their funding as well. And the narrative discussion was primarily centered around the topics that we go through in the form that we fill out. So we have healthcare and human services, youth education and child welfare, public safety and emergency services, core infrastructure, city services and resiliency, housing, land use and economic development, transportation and mobility, parks, libraries, and other community facilities. There is a robust report with a lot of information. I won't get into specifics, but if you're interested in seeing what the executive board and other members of the board and community members discussed, it's in the report. I will also go right into the primary activity, which was the review of the capital budget priorities and requests. Each year, there's a register that's provided to the board, both the preliminary budget and then the executive budget, which is the final budget, which includes what's funded in the upcoming fiscal year. And so this is all for fiscal year 2026, which is our current fiscal year. The board goes through a procedure where we reorder the priorities for the year. And so I'm just going to go through the list of what the request was and what order it went to. And if folks have the report, you can follow along. And if you'd like to request a report, you can always reach out to the board's office. So number one, it's the same order. This was a request for the Department of Housing Preservation and Development, provide more housing for extremely low and low income households. It has been the number one capital request since my time as a district manager, and I imagine before that as well. Number two, it was moved down to number three. This is a request for the Economic Development Corporation. Other capital budget request, major commercial corridor investment on Broadway, Myrtle, and Wyckoff Avenue. Number three was moved up to number two. This is another request for housing preservation and development, provide more housing for seniors. Number four was moved to continued support. Continued support is what it sounds like. It's when something has either been funded or it's been addressed, but we still think the board believes that there should be attention to this item. And this was a request for Department of Transportation, part of a project to reconstruct streets, specifically for Warefield Street between Wyckoff and Irving Avenues. Number five moved up to number four, another request for Department of Transportation, reconstruct streets Broadway between Van Sinderen Avenue and Flushing Avenue. Folks know, very familiar with this. We thank our council members for their advocacy. Also have some questions if we have our federal representatives here about next steps on that. And then number six, removed project funded. So this was exciting. We don't get this very often, but the request for the Brooklyn Public Library was to create a new or renovate or upgrade an existing public library. Washington Irving has secured the funding for those renovations. So congrats to the board and the community. Number seven, continued support request for Department of Environmental Protection. This is to essentially, let's see, inspect sanitary sewer on specific street and repair or replace as needed. So this one technically is for repair or replace, and this is for Knickerbocker Avenue. We know that the Councilmember Nurse was able to secure a record $390 million investment as part of the City of Yes negotiations to support this project. So very excited to move that to continued support. And number eight, also moved to continued support. This is a request for transportation again, reconstruct streets, Wyckoff Avenue. There is a project that's been pending for almost 10 years now. It was stalled due to the Superfund site at Wolf Outport, but hopefully we'll be seeing some more updates. There was a presentation earlier this year. And number nine moved up to number five, another request for Brooklyn Public Library. This is specific to DeKalb Library, interior renovation, including heating, cooling, other infrastructure safety improvements, and a sustainability project for site drainage. Number 10 is the same order, request for parks. Provide a new expansion to a building in a park, Irving Square Park Children's Playground area. We know that this has been funded, although there are concerns. There's a long history here, and the committee felt it was important to keep it there until we know for sure that it's going to happen. Number 11 moved up. Number 7, request for NYPD. Other NYPD facilities and equipment requests, additional Argus cameras at Bushwick Playground and Central Avenue and Pilling Street. We know that the council member's office was able to secure, I believe, one of those. I heard from them recently, but we keep those there and we work closely with the precinct to determine if there are any needs for equipment. Okay, they were able to secure funding for 3. There were just recommendations on this list for 2, and we were asked to provide them with one of the 3 that they funded. Number 12 was moved up to number 6, request for parks, reconstruct or upgrade a building in a park, Maria Hernandez Comfort Station. No need for an explanation there. And number 13 moved up to number 8, request for parks, reconstruct or upgrade a park or amenity. This is Green Central Knoll play area. And again, if you've been there recently, no explanation needed. Number 14 moved up to number 9, request for the Transit Authority, which is technically not charter mandated to participate in this process, but we have these here to formalize what the board and the community believes needs to be invested in. And this is repair or upgrade subway stations or other transit infrastructure, DeKalb Avenue accessibility for an elevator installation. Moved up to number 11, this is 15, request for transportation, reconstruct streets, Myrtle Avenue from Broadway to Wyckoff. And then 16 moved up to number 12, request for the NYC Transit Authority repair, upgrade subway stations or other transit infrastructure. This was for the Wilson Avenue L Station ADA compliance on the Canarsie bound train. We know it's partially compliant now. And so I will pause there. That was 16 total capital requests. Capital requests generally are anything, I was explained, $1 million or above, but think big investments. Our expense budget was referred to the full board. So this space expense is going to be for anything that's programmatic. It's going to be for personnel. It's going to be for some equipment. But I will pause and see if there are any questions about the capital budget requests or any suggestions or needs that the board would like to identify, and then we'll open it up to the public.
Nancy Keith, CB4 member. I'm just curious for some of the park updates. While, let's say, the playground is under construction, where do the kids go for their playground needs? Like, are they redirected somewhere else, nearby park?
The short answer is yes. There's no, I mean, as far as I'm aware, there's no formal procedure. We've had a mild informal victory when we asked parks to at least post signage so people know what's happening when fences go up. So I think we're starting, the bar is very low, but we're working our way there. So now that they're posting what's happening, we can also encourage them to add to that post, like where people can go as an alternative. But generally speaking, yes, if the playground is closed, then folks would be encouraged to use an alternative.
Okay, got it. Yeah, I just have a question because I think the Maria Hernandez playground is, very popular. A lot of people use it. I'm trying to think around the area. I live around that area. We have Fermi Playground, which is
Probably the
also a very
closest.
sad state of affairs.
Mhm.
And I know a lot of people are kind of figuring out where they can go, and I feel like the choices are very just kind of not so great.
On the Maria Hernandez piece, I don't know if Parks has presented, but there was 6.5 million allocated for the playground. And a lot of that came from even before I was a parent, just folks in the neighborhood saying like, I think the playground has not seen investment in around 25 years. And the park is great. It's all of our park. We saw like a big investment on closer to the Irving side a couple years ago when Borough President Reynoso was a council member. That's great. Now the playground, it's kind of been, we secured money for that playground 3 budget cycles ago, and it's still very slow moving. And I hear you. I live right by there. That's my park as well. I will say that there was not enough investment in Bushwick Parks at any point in time, right? And so we saw investments to like the bathroom at Green Central Knoll, which was like $1 million, which was a lot, but that's how much Parks was charging at the time. And now the parks are in such disrepair that these estimates are no longer $1 million, $2 million. 6.5 is just the playground at Maria Hernandez. It's not the whole park. We did a little bit of the dog run 2 budget cycles ago. Fermi hasn't been done in 30 years. Gilbert Justice Ramirez, which is right outside of CB4, hasn't been done since they opened the park. Victor Robles was a council member. So it makes it difficult when there is construction happening to move up, say, go to Fermi, which also looks very sad. So what we can do is coordinate if there are superficial, we can walk all the way to Irving. No, stay in District 34. If we can do like cosmetic repairs to Fermi in the meantime while Maria Hernandez is being done, I'm happy to prioritize that and do that because I know it's the closest one. But unfortunately, there's also the playground at PS 145, which is not open all the time, but I just want to put that out there as well. But we can talk to Parks about coordinating because Fermi is technically the closest one. It needs a lot of love too. But just to give y'all the context, not an excuse. I also hate this process. It is millions and millions and millions more than it ever was to improve parks. And they have an even more reduced budget. So projects that would take like 4 or 5 years are taking like 10, 12 years now, which is really, really tough.
Anyone else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I don't see anyone on Zoom. And if there are no other requests at this time, we will close this public hearing item. I'm going to give it one more time. This is for either capital or expense. Going once, going twice. And before I close, I will just, since we didn't go over it in the meeting, I will summarize the first 5 for expense, so folks have an idea of what's on there. The first item for the expense budget is to hire additional uniformed officers, increasing manpower at the 83rd precinct. Historically, this has been the first item on the expense budget agenda. The second is enhance park safety through more security staff. So these are our Parks Enforcement Patrol. And then the third is provide better park maintenance, fund the Parks Department to ensure personnel can adequately maintain park spaces. And number 5 is to provide, expand, or enhance programs for housing inspections to correct code violations. And so these continue very similarly and are usually prioritized in the same way as the capital requests. All right. If anyone has any other questions, feel free to contact the board's office. That concludes this public hearing item. Thank you.
Board members, there's going to be a roll call. First roll call.
Isa Abni, Stephanie Anderson, Tiani Belliard, Joanna Bennett, Robert Camacho, Tevin Campbell, Felix Ceballos, Andrew Choi, Alvina Davis, Freddie Fowler, Joanna Fuentes Singh. Alan Gembo is absent. He informed the district office. Jason Gares, Christopher Graham, Ann Guiney, Elaine Hamilton, Zachary Hendrickson is also absent, informed the district office. Courtney Henley is Deborah Hicks.
Here.
Tanisha Honeygan,
Present.
Barbara Jackson, Virgie Jones, Tara Jones Thomas is excused. Luisa Jose, Giovanni Justiniano is excused. Nancy Keith, Cindy LeBron, Christine Malden, Freddie Madison, Alex Moreno, Ramika Nichols Barnes, Zuma Navoa,
Present.
Cirilla Gachizi, Cirilla Nunez, Shrey Richardson is excused. Pablo Rivera, Raul Rubio, Eliseo Ruiz, Josue Salazar, Milagro Sandoval, Juan Serra, Annette Spellin, B. Spiderman, gotcha. James Stewart, Savannah Ty, Christian Tate is absent, informed the district office. Ben Tucker, Jerry Valentine.
Present.
Thank you, Jerry. Linda Whitfield. Laura Ronzado has resigned. One moment to tally. "29 board members present constitutes a quorum. Thank you, everyone. For those that didn't sign in, please sign in. And now I will pass this back to our council member, Gutierrez, for additional updates.
Thank you all so much. I will be brief. Thank you all so much. I just wanted to say, you also recognize Kim from my office who's been here. She's the bomb. Just a couple of announcements. I think I'll do Kim's announcement if that'll shorten the process. Is that okay? We're starting PB again for the upteenth cycle. Looking to be 5th time reigning champs. Looking at you, Sandy Nurse. We're trying. No, I'm kidding. Anywho, I only mean that to say that since it was introduced by Antonio, you all have spoken. Bushwick collectively has spoken and really come out to participate. So I want to thank you all and hope that you feel motivated to continue coming out. What you are able to do has allowed us to invest in schools and parks, in public spaces, and it's really meaningful. So we're starting that idea collection now, and that's starting through the 28th. We are also doing a Halloween event at the Moore Street Market on the 31st, so come out to that. On the legislative side, I just wanted to share with you all that we were able to pass a couple of really cool bills at the council. One was the resurrecting the internet master plan. I am the council's chair for technology. I don't come from technology, but I cared about this committee and I wanted to chair this committee because I wanted to see universal broadband become a reality. I wanted it to be accessible and affordable to all. And the Internet Master Plan was a plan that was put together by experts that said, let's put a plan together to ensure that there's more competition, that we're supporting smaller internet service providers or ISPs that tend to be owned and led by people of color that are already in our neighborhood. So we don't have to, be victim to like just being able to work with Charter or Spectrum or just only being able to work with Verizon. That makes it so that we're never in control of the prices. That makes it so that we're never in control of the speed. And so the Internet Master Plan is going to include a lot of other features as well. It's going to cover digital literacy, creating access, really prioritizing neighborhoods. And I'm excited about it because this is a bill that's forcing this administration to put something together. So I will keep you all posted, but that was a really exciting opportunity for us to have passed that bill. We were also in the summer able to pass the Back Home Act. And this package of bills really came from experiences of you all. Millie was super supportive and so many of you all were. The Back Home Act is really a package of bills that is putting victims' experience at the center of the way the city responds to fires and to floods. And so some of those bills in that package make it so that the city has to communicate with you right now. If there is a fire in your building, no one is giving you any information besides the FDNY and the Red Cross and that initial trauma. If you are couch surfing, consider yourself lucky. You are only being provided shelter for a maximum of 2 weeks. And there's no communication oftentimes between your landlord, between the city. And what this bill is doing is creating a whole other office under HRO that is going to keep you informed of exactly what's happening. More importantly, it's going to let you know if there is a demolition order. For those of us that work with tenants and legal service providers know what that waiting game is like. It could be 2-3 years only to find out that your building is being demolished. So you never even had a chance of going back into your building. And so this package of bills is going to start creating transparency. You're going to know the information. You're going to be able to plan accordingly. So I'm really excited about that. If you all have any questions about when that takes effect, please just reach out to the office. And then just to let you all, just remind you all about the ballot proposals and don't forget to vote for mayor while you're there, while you're voting for those ballot proposals. We are really at a unique time and I will say that the last 4 years have been an honor and a pleasure to be able to do this work. Thank you. But the thought of being able to work with somebody who wants to work with the council is very exciting to me. So I encourage you all to obviously do your research, but please do go out and vote on November 4th. And then I think that's it. I think Kim had one more announcement, but I forgot what it was. I'm sorry. That's it. And any questions?
Oh,
Good evening, everyone. My name is Felix Ceballos, CB4 member. I want to go back a little bit because we're talking about proposal tonight, and I want to go back to the presentation. And I want to mention, I want to talk about the park. An architect and park is very important for the community. Very important for everybody, most for the children, like the young lady say over there. Our building, the way they design, they don't have space. They don't have space for recreation. So park is very important for our community. I know the city had to spend a lot of money for maintaining. But no matter what, we need the park because people, that's the way they can have recreation. Also, we're talking about drug. We're talking about when our children or our young generation, they going for wrong way, park support a lot, all that kind of thing. Thank you very much.
Right. Oh. While Mr. Camacho is making his way over there, I have one question, council member. Is there going to be an opportunity for the board or public to comment on the internet master plan?
On the pass or on the like the proposal, the RFP? Yeah, absolutely. So there's going to be great question. There's going to be a mandated board that basically has to call in public testimony and experts. And it's going to be a lot more than just like, do you need the internet? Yes or no? Obviously, we all need the internet. It's about where are the gaps? One in four New Yorkers still are not connected to the internet, still can't afford the internet. And that's why the dependency on like the libraries is super important because there's Wi-Fi. That's why, believe it or not, Lincoln YC is also important because people are connected. And we don't have that here in Hope Gardens, but many of the NYCHA developments do have Big Apple Connect. And that was funded through this administration. And so there is a dependency on the internet. So the idea is like, yes, there's going to be appointments made to this advisory committee, and they will be calling in meetings. So we'll definitely let you all know when that happens so you all can weigh in. Thank you.
Hi, it's Courtney Henley, Community Board 4. At one of the meetings, you guys mentioned that either a law was passed or it's going to be passed, where if you have rent stabilized apartments in the building, it has to be posted. Has that been done, and how is that going to be enforced?
Yes, it passed. It's in rulemaking, which means the agency has to develop the rules around it. We expect it to come out of rulemaking by the end of this year. And so hopefully at the start of 2026, those signs should be, property owners should be putting those up. So we'll send out a big notice when that happens, and try to do some awareness around it so people.
Is there any penalty that they face, or?
Yes, there is a penalty that they will face if they do not have it up. I forget the dollar amount, but there is a fine associated with not having that there. And it's just a reminder, they're supposed to send you a notice. If you live in a rent stabilized unit, they're supposed to send you a notice every year. So if you're not getting that, you should report it or request it from your landlord. Okay, just making sure everyone knows. Okay.
Hi. Joanna Fuentes, CB4. I just have a question for the internet master plan, Jennifer. Who is going to benefit from this? Is it just families? Can also like nonprofits benefit from this as well?
Yeah, that's a great question, Joanna. So who's going to benefit? The idea, and also this is just a plan. I want to make sure that I don't want to speculate. I don't want to get people in a frenzy about, I love my FiOS and I don't want to go anywhere. You can still pay for all of that, right? The Internet Master Plan is just really raising the realities that for New Yorkers, right? More and more New Yorkers are doubling up, tripling up. It's not just like one internet provider for one household anymore. People are living in shelters. The shelters are not necessarily mandated to have internet. Schools, there's no more snow days, right? If the school is closed, your child is supposed to be at a computer doing work. And if you don't have internet, that makes it very difficult. So it's really about filling in those holes and the realities of like the internet is not a luxury, it is a utility now. So yes, families are going to benefit from it, but the plan is a plan. It's going to identify where the problems are. There was a recent report that shed light on the Bronx is the most disconnected borough. And so obviously parts of Queens and parts of Brooklyn, and you'll see areas that are the most disconnected are also the most in need and the most vulnerable. So it's going to be able to identify where those locations are. We're going to be able to work with some of these bigger providers, so the ones you're familiar with, as well as smaller providers that maybe you're not familiar with or that have already been doing work to be able to connect New Yorkers. And part of the plan is also to come up with a plan that makes it damn near free to have internet. Right. And the state, there is money in the state has funded it. And I know we have the shutdown and, it's not going to be this like easy process, but it is an investment and there was money in it under the Biden administration. So the fact that is we want to make the internet universal. We want to make sure that you are all connected. So everyone ultimately will benefit, but it's just a plan. It's not going to say tomorrow internet is free for everyone.
I want, wait one second. Let me give it to you. Then I want to be off track because I know we have some of our seniors from Hope Garden that are a little concerned because they don't understand and they want, I'm trying to see if I could get someone that understand, speak Spanish and English to translate to them and let them know what's going on. I know some of them do have concerns, and I addressed that this is not the place, the time with some of them that will speak at a later day and time in regards to some of the issues they may be having in Hope Garden. I know that there are several issues here. I know that some of these seniors called and indicated that there are dogs in some of these developments, that some of the tenants got bitten, and there are issues. We know that it's not the time now, but we know that they're here, and we want to recognize the seniors that came out. We don't want to exclude them. So I know that they have concerns, and we will going to address, and yo sé que ustedes tienen mucho problema y necesita, y nosotros vamos a tratar de darle su tiempo después para que ustedes digan lo que está pasando, para nosotros tratar de ayudarlo a mejor que nosotros pudimos. Aquí tenemos dos concejales aquí y ellos también quieren oír a saber de los problemas que están pasando ahí, y gracias por viniendo. Y por favor, si ustedes no entienden, porque se pueden sentar con alguien que habla español en inglés y le pueden decir. Entonces, si necesitan algo, me pueden llamar allí y yo trato de ayudarlo nomás. Yo hablo español tirado, pero lo hablo, tú sabes. Pero I told them that I talk Spanish, but I throw the Spanish like, you know. So, cualquier cosa que ustedes, nosotros tenemos una agenda que hacer. Si necesitamos tiempo, hablamos y nosotros vamos a hablar con ustedes, con toda la información y le vamos a dejar a los elected officials, a los concejales, también dejar saber lo que está pasando. Y yo mañana voy a llamar a la oficina temprano por la mañana a ver lo que está pasando, y si cualquier necesita que yo vaya a su casa a verle el problema, yo voy, yo saco retrato y llamamos Buildings Department, ahí entro para resolver su problema. Y si no están haciendo lo que están haciendo, como mami dice, lo que no se sirve se vota, ¿verdad? So vamos a trabajar juntos. Gracias y perdone. Thank you, board members, for allowing me, to get out of the agenda, Madam Chair, parliamentary, because I know that we have an agenda, but they wanted to speak, and I didn't want to, I didn't want the old timers to bust me in the head, so I have police here, so I don't want to get them to get arrested, so I'm going to get it.
Okay, thank you, Camacho. Gracias a ustedes por estar aquí. Gracias, Camacho. So wanted to say, Ms. Gutierrez, thank you so much for sharing, not only for being part of the digital equity, right, conversation, but for sharing the update and also taking leadership, being part of the chair. We understand that the strength on your end, well, to what you shared earlier, is not leading much on like technology, but the fact that you are very passionate and you're choosing to lead on that is very important for us here in the community. I wrote down a question that I have for you. Will there be any opportunities for community members or local small ISPs, right? That's really important, right? To be part of the implementation of the process, especially those already embedded underserved in our neighborhoods, right? Like ours, obviously. I'm particularly interested in how residents and hyperlocal, providers can contribute to building sustainable, affordable access in our district. So I wanted to get your feedback on that, and also understanding that I'm currently a student in college, went back to college. I'm a non-traditional student. And in school, I just came from an AI workshop. I've attended many AI workshops in school, in the colleges, and I'm seeing a lot of the same type of push within some high schools, not all high schools. I'm not sure how Bushwick High School, works when it comes to that right now. And also excited to hear about the library renovations. And I'm hoping that's all part of the same conversation.
Yes, thank you. And congrats on going going back to school. That's amazing. And I want to bring you into the conversation around tech. We really do need more people that look like us to talk about the realities of the digital divide. So if anyone here is, uniquely interested in not just the internet, but digital literacy, on AI technology, on the way that it is in our pockets, in our schools, how to improve government services through AI, please let me know or let Kim know. We'd love to bring you into the conversation. On your question about the ISPs, the internet service providers, yes, they're going to be a key piece. It was really a reason why I wanted to even resurrect the Internet Master Plan, because it was these smaller ISPs that had been doing work in communities of color like Silicon Harlem, Uptown, that were a part of the original process. And with this administration came, they kicked them out, basically. Under de Blasio at that tail end in 2020, they had made designations to have these smaller ISPs provide a plan to provide internet in public housing. And under Adams, they tabled that plan and just unilaterally worked with Altice and Charter or Spectrum and really edged them out. And there was no reasoning for it. So really my passion is to be able to create options for y'all. I heard from so many people that are really locked into these like internet, these utility contracts that they cannot get out of because the internet is not an option and they're not provided in their community. So the Internet Master Plan was really born out of the fact that I think we all deserve choices. I think we all deserve to have internet that we can afford. I don't think that we should be making decisions between paying your internet bill and food or your health care. And so really was born out of that. So the idea of making it as broad as we did was to, yes, include the ISPs. And I'll just say on the AI piece, the council did fund an AI education and engagement initiative. Sorry, we're still working on the name, but the idea is to be able to bring in dollars to our communities. For us, it'll be potentially through a group like El Puente, potentially, because they do some of this work already, to teach folks how to utilize AI. You don't have to be scared of it, but you should also know how to keep yourself safe and secure. And so this will be the first year that we're piloting it. I'm very excited about it. It's our new thing. And so when I have more information, I will bring it to you, meaning like when the group is ready to do the outreach to bring people in, I would love to bring some folks in to just workshop to see how the curriculum is resonating with people. It's going to be in multiple languages. So I'll keep you all posted about that.
Madam Chair, parliamentarian, we're going to go with our regular a meeting. We'll address because we're ready at 7:30. Oh, Sandy Nurse, do you have?
Okay, Councilmember Nurse was just here for the charter revision. Anyone else that has questions for the council members can follow up offline. We do have to get back to the agenda as we have several committee reports this evening. Thank you. All right, Mr. Camacho.
We did the roll call. Number 2, acceptance of the agenda. And that spelling? Marina Davis said, all in favor? Any opposed, any abstention? Motion carried. Abstention of the previous minute meetings? All in favor? Any opposed, any abstention?
Yep, just for the record, that was Virgie Jones made the motion, Raul Rubio second, and all were in favor.
Any abstention? Parliamentary note? Ms. Jolina Bennett.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joanna Bennett. I'm the CB4 parliamentarian. I just want to, I'm sure everyone is sick and tired of hearing this. Please announce your name when you're given the microphone. You might want to also say if you're from an organization that is helpful. If you look, we have people here who have to transcribe the notes. They are important for the city charter. And if you look at some of these community reports, you will see the notes and somebody has to be able to read them and identify the speakers. That's why it is so important. It also helps us to recognize each other. Another thing I wanted to point out is the use of acronyms. And it's important. You've been a community board member, you come in here, after a while, the alphabet soup is second nature to you. It is not second nature to people who sit here and they're hearing words like ULURP, or they're hearing, NYPD or whatever. It is helpful when you first mention the acronym to say what it stands for and then go from there. It's also helpful when you do your committee reports to also use that sort of formula. The first time you use the name, to spell it out so that people reading the reports can understand them. This is about community engagement. Think of the first time, I'll give an example. First time I started college and I go into register and they're using words like syllabus and bursar. And I'm like, where am I? Am I still in America? I'm ready to leave the first day because I don't understand what they're talking about. It's easy, so that's one of the things I wanted to emphasize. And that comes out of the parliamentarian workshops that I attend about using acronyms. The other thing that I wanted to say is, thank you very much. And what I'm supposed to do is my job is to keep the meeting flowing, to be conscientious of the time, and to be fair. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, parliamentary. I also want to also address that when you're speaking in regards to a topic, don't make it personal. Speak to the chair. If I'm not here, speak to the person in front. And then we'll address whatever questions that you may have. We have Inspector from the A3 Precinct, Deputy Inspector David Poliodi here. Is he? He's talking outside. Okay, we'll come back. Committee Environmental Protection, Sanitation, Parks, and Rec. Please come up. Mr. Chairman Tucker.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Ben Tucker, Chairperson of Environmental Protection, Transportation, Sanitation, Parks and Recreation Committee. The committee met on September 29th, Monday, September 29th. We had a presentation from the Department of Transportation. They were there to present the most recent edition, the 4th edition of the Street Design Manual. This is the manual that the DOT uses and also works with other agencies and community boards to communicate what tools they have at their disposal for street design. The charter mandates that they update it every 5 years, and so they've just published the most recent one. What we found really helpful about the Department of Transportation's presentation is that the entire manual is now available online, and they've made it very, very easy to access, and you can also search all of the different tools they're using. And so we were appreciative of the Department of Transportation for coming to present to us, because anything that helps us as a board communicate and make recommendations to them is helpful for us. And I would encourage anyone to check out the Street Design Manual if you have the chance. It's available online. We had some committee mail review that I'll highlight. There is a street redesign on Scott Avenue and Troutman Street that's over right on the edge of the CB4 border. There was a tragic crash there, and the family of the deceased was advocating for safety, and thankfully DOT listened and will be redesigning that area and closing off one triangle and making the traffic flow more safely over in that area. The other thing I will say is we got a notice from the TLC. Last month, the TLC commissioner was here. Now every TLC vehicle is now required to have a decal to remind their passengers to look for cyclists before they open doors. So as a cyclist, I appreciate that very much. Thank you. The Taxi and Limousine Commission. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I fell into the trap. I said Department of Transportation before I said DOT, but I abbreviated TLC by, okay. Excellent. So the other thing we did was we took up something that was old business. I had mentioned it in a previous committee report, but we had been tossing around as a committee an idea for a recommendation, and this is a recommendation aimed at the addressing the recent policy that was brought up by the NYPD in April. And for background, what the policy change is is that they started issuing criminal summonses for offenses that were made on bicycles, scooters, and e-bikes. And for further reference, if a car were to have the same offense, a car would not be sent to criminal court; it would be sent to traffic court. So our committee felt that it may have been worthwhile, and there's some precedent for this because there are other community boards in the city that have taken up recommendations on this. But we did want our recommendation to really reflect what everyone in the committee was feeling. And so we hashed it out over multiple meetings, and we did finally reach consensus. And so I'm going to read what it was that we fully agreed on. And this is after 2 or 3 different committee meetings of hashing it out. So here is what we were able to reach as a consensus. This is a recommendation that we made as a committee regarding the NYPD policy of issuing criminal summonses. So we request that they reverse the policy for pedal-powered bicycles. That's any bicycle that's not an e-bike, an e-scooter, a moped, just a regular pedal-powered bicycle. We feel that a violation, a street traffic violation on a regular bike would not warrant criminal court. Additionally, we request that the NYPD provide data-driven justification for the need to issue criminal summonses for e-bike users, because in the past we had the chance to ask Deputy Inspector Pajoli about this, and so what we have heard from the NYPD is that this was absolutely necessary, and so we'd love to hear their justification with data to show that it was necessary, and maybe after issuing criminal summonses, if it is achieving the goal that they set out to achieve by issuing these criminal summonses, that would be a different story. But in absence of that, we really would love to see that. The other thing we'd like to see is that the city to hold delivery app companies accountable, because really what's happening a lot is that these delivery app companies, their business model is to get as many bikes on the street as possible, contracting for them. And then each driver is incentivized to make as many deliveries as possible in a short period of time, which leads to reckless driving. And when the operator of an e-bike is biking recklessly and gets pulled over, it's not DoorDash, Lyft, Grubhub that gets the ticket. It's the operator, and they're all independent contractors. So if these companies had an incentive and they were employees of theirs and they wanted their employees to act appropriately, they would incentivize that, and they would incentivize their drivers to not ride inappropriately, but they don't care because they're contractors. They don't care about their rider safety at all. And in fact, they kind of incentivize them to ride recklessly because they're adding as many stops as they can to make money. So our committee felt that one of the solutions would be for the city to find a way to hold delivery app companies accountable for their contractors. And then lastly, anything that is safety, that street safety, comes down to infrastructure. And we think that the city and the DOT needs to work to create better safety for infrastructure that balances the needs of, literally, we just had the Department of Transportation telling us about how their rubric for their design is around equity. And so we would like to see streets be equitable, that they're safe for everybody and that they're designed safely for everybody. And they're not designed in ways where everyone is sharing the road in an unsafe manner, and a person driving unsafely would also impact other people as well. You have these e-bike riders riding in the regular bike lane, but they're weaving in between the sidewalk, the bike lane, and traffic itself. We feel that if the city and the Department of Transportation really put their imagination to it, they could design safer infrastructure that wouldn't put people in harm's way in the first place. So those are the 3 requests. I'll summarize it. We don't think that regular bikes should be getting criminal summonses. We'd love to see the data for why e-bikes they started issuing criminal summonses to bikes and e-bikes. We'd like the city to hold delivery app companies responsible for the behavior of their riders. And we'd like the city and the DOT to think about ways to redesign the roads safely for everyone to use them. And that was our recommendation. Beyond that, we also discussed Green Central Null. And if you remember last month, we had the pleasure of having the Parks Commissioner here. So we have an ally in Parks, and we have allies in the council, and we would love to see this come to a solution where the kids can use the park and people aren't damaging the park. And as we covered in our budget tonight, we would like the Parks Department to invest in better protection there and better fences there. And and then the other thing is I would encourage folks to attend the Citizen Pruner course. They were holding open registrations for that. That's the last piece of new business from our meeting. Our Parks Department is severely understaffed and underfunded. There is an opportunity for folks to volunteer as a citizen pruner. This is a special training that the city offers, in which case, once you get the certificate, you can respond to needs in your area, because otherwise it would take 7 years for the city's pruners to get around to all of Brooklyn. So we really encourage folks to do that. And then one thing that was brought up is that there's no network for these citizen pruners. And so there is really no way to centralize where the needs are and help people respond. So it's just based on folks getting their license to be a citizen pruner and then sort of observing what's happening in their neighborhood. And I think that presents us an opportunity to get imaginative and think of some solutions there as well. So that's all. Everything else is in the report, and I'll be back during recommendations. Thank you. Yep. We have questions.
Question? Go ahead.
Stephanie Anderson, CB4. Hi, Ben. Was there any talk of e-bikes not being able to ride on sidewalks, or for them to have a license plate or something to that effect for the safety of the community?
Yeah. So from what I've been following, based on the commentary around this policy change, the police commissioner has said that this policy is in absence of having a program in the city where e-bikes are registered. There was a bill in the council, I believe Bob Holden sponsored it, where he wanted to have all the e-bikes under like a licensing registration system, and that I don't think went anywhere. I don't think it really had support. And so it seems that the commissioner has said that this is her solution in absence of that. And then the other thing is, we as a board, one of the first things we recognize is there are a lot of dangers and out of hand bikers out there. And I think we addressed that with sort of the acknowledgement that the delivery app companies need to be held responsible for it. So I think one of the first things we want to say is no one's denying that this is a problem. We're trying to think of imaginative solutions around it.
So will they be able to follow the rules of the road, or it's going to be different for each?
Well, so first of all, this is just a recommendation. So this is just us saying our opinion to the NYPD, and then they're welcome to, I hope they listen to it, but they're welcome to consider it however they wish. As of right now, e-biker riding on the sidewalk, I would argue deserves a ticket, but not a criminal ticket, would deserve to go to traffic court the same way a car driving on the sidewalk would go to traffic court. But under this new policy, an e-biker riding on the sidewalk would have to go to criminal court for that violation.
Okay, thank you so much.
I have here, anyone else on this side? Then I have,
Joanna Fuentes Singh, board member. I have 2 questions. So once the individual takes the training, is there like a master list where, let's say, for instance, someone in the community needs some help in pruning in their neighborhood? Like, can we create some kind of master list? Because it's very important.
I think that's a fantastic question. And this came up just at the very end of the last committee meeting, and we all looked around the room and said, this is something that needs to be done.
Okay.
So
the next question is, I think that I experience a lot of bikers, not just those the motor bikes, but just regular bikers when they're coming out of the bars. And I mean, can they do something about that? Because now they're intoxicated while they're driving the bike.
yeah,
I'm sorry, and they're tripping everywhere. Sorry. I think something needs to be done.
that's a good observation. I will say I notice the same thing sometimes.
Hi, this is Matt Timms. Question about whether or not decriminalizing is going to, can ICE agents show up at the traffic court as well? Because that's a concern. I think that's an overriding issue for some people. That's the issue, I think.
That's a very valid concern, and we did very much take that into consideration at the beginning of this discussion. And I will say that I did some research into it, and it is not, again, we don't want to put anyone in the crosshairs of ICE. We don't want to put anyone in harm's way in that regard, but I'm not 100% sure that specifically sending people to criminal court for this violation puts them further in danger of becoming in ICE custody, although being labeled a criminal obviously is different status than someone who's not. But I can't speak to the specific nuances of that. If a person is found guilty in criminal court, what happens if that leads to them having a criminal record? My understanding is not as alarming as I initially had thought it was, and that even if a person is found guilty, it's not an automatic thing that puts them in harm's way in that regard.
I have a couple of concerns in regards to this. As a Camacho chairperson CB4, I'm just a little I have spoken to a lot of young kids and people that do right, and I've spoken to the delivery drivers, and my question is, and this is for the whole board when they vote on this, what's in it? What's in it? If I go through a red light in a bike and a cop is there, don't go through a red light. You won't get a ticket, right? Isn't that common sense, right? I remember I was a kid and they gave me a ticket and I had to go to court. And the only reason why I say that is because if you decriminalize it, it takes away from a lot of people to go see a judge and tell a judge, yes, it costs me $150 because there's no monetary that the police officers put on there, just a date that you go, because they can't identify the bike that went through the light, because they could identify my car with the license plate and can identify me. That's the reason why they do that. So, like my mom said, don't go through the light. What is it this changing this, and how should states for me to go to court to give you the summons because people can't afford to pay the summons. Some people could because they don't want to take time out and see the judge, so they want to get monetary $50 or $50. They give you a date, you go to court, and the judge does it. So if the judge tells me, Mr. Camacho, because I've been in court before, I was a kid for that. And back then, the bench warrant, you don't pay it. You know that, right? You know, remember, right? Okay, so I had a couple of those. And then they hold me there until I paid it. So I know what it's like. So my thing is, are we taking away the Latinos and Hispanics exercising their right of seeing the judge, where I can tell the judge, you're right, yeah, and I did that, but I can't afford $100. Is there any way that you can? For some people to that it's a resolution that needs to be addressed before we see, because since our council is telling us to vote, so it's the same way. So I want to read before this committee signs on something, we need to read to make sure it reflects the community, not special individuals. Okay, so I really want to address that because I spoke to a lot of young kids that say, you know, I know I do that. I know I get on the sidewalk. It's fine. I got to go to court, and the judge determines the amount monetary that I receive. And if it's harsh, he said, listen, I'm a young kid. I got no money. They'll work with you because I know for a fact they do. So they were telling me that by agreeing to this, you're telling them that they're going to give them fines, the people that could afford to pay. don't have to go sometimes, so I'd rather pay a fine. But that means they can afford it. I can't. So we really need to balance. And it's benefiting. If it's benefiting the community or our people are, then that's now if you want to get everyone in regards to the e-bikes, guess what? We gotta stop this, him, her, she, all of us. We gotta stop this. Either we're gonna go with everyone. We can't keep saying Latinos and blacks are always going to be disenfranchised and then we're not going to help them. So yeah, there are e-bike riders that do delivery that are Latinos and black that do go through a red light, that do get on the sidewalk, that do hit a senior, that do fall. So if you want to make a resolution, I want to do a resolution too. By law, I have to wear a seatbelt in my car, correct? I get a fine. Anybody gets a fine, you don't get a seatbelt, right? Because a lot of seniors are falling down and hitting their head and dying. So let's enforce the officers putting a helmet on, the helmet, not 12 and under. Because the adults and the seniors one just died the other day, hit his head on the curb and died because he didn't have a helmet on. So let's start enforcing that one. That's a resolution that benefits everyone, especially our seniors and our kids, especially all of us that have problems. Especially myself. I'm not wearing a helmet and I get hit in the sidewalk or a car hits me, I go through the windshield and I don't have a helmet. So, be careful what you wish for. And we need to work on benefiting this community. Sign a resolution. I want to know if it's benefiting our community or there's some individuals that are getting it because they're getting the services, which is the bike riders that are here. Are they helping all of us in general and painting all of us with the same brush? So that's why I'm really concerned in regards to signing something. This can be careful what you push for, because then you see buying bikes on the sidewalk. Because if I can pay $100, they're gonna do it. If that's $100 easy I can get. I'll make that 100 in 5 visits. Everybody give me 5 tips. So be careful. Thank you.
All right. So this conversation could go on much longer, but from the looks of many faces, this is something that will likely need to be referred back to committee if folks have additional questions. So right now, I'm gonna look for hands and just make sure I'm acknowledging if there's anyone else that needs to speak on this at this very moment. Yeah. Jason, we're gonna move on from this item. What would you like to contribute?
I just thought it might be helpful either now or when we vote to understand what the resolution says and what it doesn't say, so that it's just very clear for everybody to understand how to vote based on their feelings.
Yeah, this is getting referred back to committee, Jason. As mentioned during the committee meeting, when this doesn't have sufficient community feedback, it's very difficult for recommendations to be reviewed by the board. The committee still put it to the full board, and now it is going back to committee.
Sorry, is it not on the agenda to be discussed during recommendations?
So no, as just mentioned, it's being referred back to the full board as there are many people here who have concerns and would like to further discuss it. Not at this moment though, because that's not what this meeting is about.
Sorry, I think I don't understand the procedure by which that happened, but maybe I'll take that offline.
Okay, we can follow up line. I'm happy to explain it to you. We need to move on just to keep our agenda moving. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, Celeste.
We will go back now to the 83rd precinct, our deputy inspector. I will also thank everyone for being patient. Board members, please help yourself to some food this evening and be as quiet as you possibly can so the deputy inspector can give his report. Once board members have helped themselves, the public is welcome to help themselves as well.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you again for the invitation to join everybody here this evening. I do have a couple of things to go through, so I'm going to hit them in order, obviously, and then if given the opportunity, I just quickly respond to some of the points that Ben brought up as a response from the agency where the questions were asked. So the first thing I do absolutely need to touch on and do need a real call to action to the room is I have some Crime Stopper flyers here that we're going to be putting in the back of the room. This in regard to a residential burglary incident that took place on Pilling Street on the overnight hours. Yeah, as the council members acknowledging, yeah, it garnered a lot of media attention. And without going into the full investigation, obviously respecting the privacy of the individual who was the victim on this incident, a male individual from the roof of this residential pilling kind of made entry into a third floor residential window that was open, and while that individual was home, performed a lewd act in the bedroom. So we, our special victims investigators have worked tirelessly on this investigation from the date of incident, and they've caught a tremendously clear image of that individual who committed that act. So there's a $3,500 Crime Stopper reward for any information leading to the identification and arrest of this individual. Truly a call to action to this room, because obviously conduct and behavior such as this is completely unacceptable. I don't think anybody would differentiate that point. So we brought these flyers here today. Like I said, they're going to be in the back of the room. Please take them, please review them, hang them in your building lobbies, right? And it, as we always say, continue to spread the word, continue to spread the message of what occurred, and let individuals know to please be unaware. And if anybody has any information, all the information be provided here on the flyer. So we've concluded, and if you remember back in May, before the summer started, we spoke of the summer violence deployment, where we were going to have a contingency of foot post officers deployed within the community along Central Knickerbocker Avenue going to Decatur Street. And we've come to a conclusion of that program. Very, very successful. In that zone that was created by the Crime Control Strategies Bureau, we saw about a 38 to 40% reduction in overall index crime in the summer months. So it was a very successful program. No acts of violence within that zone over the summer as well. So very, very successful. That program has now concluded. So what are we going to do with those officers? We had 15 officers, some of our newer officers from the 2 preceding graduating classes. We are taking 8 of those officers, and now they're going to be funneled into our patrol squads, right? Those are our 3 patrol squads that go out, they push the sector cars, and they respond to the radio runs. So that's going to beef up those patrol squads. And then what are we doing with the 7 remaining officers? As promised, right, as I stated back then, that once we concluded, we were going to redeploy back up to that Wyckoff Avenue and Knickerbocker Avenue corridors. If you remember last time in this meeting, there was 2 individuals who brought up some concerns along our nightlife district along Wyckoff Avenue. And almost like an open challenge, like, you know, like we think things could get better out there. And you know, in all transparency, I wholeheartedly agreed. And one promise I made is that once this summer violence program concluded, we were going to then redeploy. So we're going to have 4 officers now assigned in 2 groups of 2 along Wyckoff Avenue from, like, you know, we're still finding out the boundaries, but it's probably going to be something from like Jefferson Street to Saddam Street. They'll be working 5:30 in the evening to 2 in the morning. And probably we're thinking of like Tuesday, Wednesday, steady days off. So they're there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights. With those additional 3 officers, we're going to put them back onto Knickerbocker, but more in the northern part of the command, right, where there's a lot of retail stores. And we're doing this in anticipation of what, right? We have the holiday seasons coming up. We know that there's going to be much shopping, a lot of foot traffic out there on our commercial retail district. So we're going to add to the foot presences there as well. But, you know, I stated in this room that as soon as we were out of that summer violence program, we were going to put those officers back onto Wyckoff Avenue, and we'll be doing that starting next week. And speaking of that same corridor, some concerns were brought up with some of the presence up there, and maybe a perception of enforcement could have been increased along that same area that I spoke to from Jefferson Street to Saddam Street. So I just want to give everybody an update to what the men and women of the 8-3 precinct, and obviously we have some of our Q team officers here, Officer Romero, and everybody's very well familiar with Officer Charles, longtime NCO and now member of our Q team. Since our last community board meeting, there has been 17 summonses written along that Wyckoff, very specific, right? We're just talking from Jefferson Street to Saddam Street. Out of those 17 summonses that were issued, 3 for unlicensed vending. Marijuana 2 times, so 2 individuals unlawfully selling marijuana along Wyckoff Avenue, a 3rd individual selling alcohol. There was 11 summonses written for unlawful consumption of alcohol. There was 2 for public urination, and then there was also an unauthorized sound reproductions device, which adds to those 311 calls for noise in that area, with a speaker seized. 20% of all 311 calls along that corridor over the past month ended in some type of enforcement, whether it's summonses or arrest. There was 22 directed patrols conducted along that Wyckoff Avenue corridor, and then we engaged the Office of Nightlife with communication regarding one of the establishments at 234 Star Street. So I don't know if those 2 individuals who's raised those concerns are either here today. I don't think I see them. Maybe they're on the Zoom, but it's always important to me to be responsive, right? And that was brought up last time. So I wanted to make it a point today that the message was heard. It was heard over the past 30 days with those enforcement numbers that I've just provided. And then long-term with the commitment to redeploy foot post officers out there to keep that footprint. And as we make strides in some of the quality of life conditions, the presence of those foot post officers maintains the integrity of what we're doing there. So get into some crime numbers now, and I'm going to hit these points quickly. And then, like I said, the last portion I'll just save as a response to Ben. So year to date, we continue our crime decrease within this command of over a 14% decline in year to date index crimes. That's January 1st of 25 to current. Over our 2-year number, we're now down 19%. So from January 1st, 2024 to current, we're seeing a 20% reduction in reported index crime, which is great. It's tremendous work. It means that what the men and women of the command are responsible to do, that their approach is effective. And beyond that, it means that when we speak of crime prevention methods in forums such as this, our community council meeting, clergy council, via social media, that message is being spread. And that's what we always ask, and we appreciate that. Where can we see improvements? Our grand larceny numbers. And for grand larcenies, there's so many various sub-classifications of what a grand larceny is, right? It could be removing property off of a person, removing property unattended over $1,000, the theft of credit cards, obviously auto larceny goes into that as well. So our grand larceny numbers, and we've spoken in this room, chain snatches, right, involving perpetrators on mopeds. Last month, we spoke about the jewelry swap scam, right, where somebody purporting to ask for a blessing and then putting fake jewelry over somebody's neck while removing their actual jewelry. Speaking of that, what do we still see increases in? And that's how car breaks. So 2 parts to that. We created a zone in our Sector David. So our Sector David is that northeastern part of the command, Hart to Harmon, Wilson to Wyckoff. We saw a cluster there of auto breaks. We did some focused deployment, made some nice arrests, some nice apprehensions of recidivist offenders, and we've seen some good work in there. But, trends continue. We always speak about minimizing opportunities, right? Like leaving the property visible in the rear back seat of a car, in the passenger seat of the car, all things we want to avoid. Bring the property into the house, put it in the trunk for the night. Don't create that opportunity for somebody to enter the vehicle, unlocked, not unlocked. Windows are broken to enter these vehicles and properties removed. All very, very important. What else do we see? Reports of credit card thefts, right? I order in a Discover card to my house at 480 Knickerbocker Avenue. The credit card never makes it there, and then I'm alerted to unauthorized charges. That credit card is intercepted somewhere along the way, leaving the financial institution before it makes its way to my house. Now, is it intercepted via a stationary mailbox? Is it intercepted in my mailroom, right, in the lobbies of these residential buildings? All things that become part of the investigation. What do we recommend? One, We have to report these incidents, right? The more data we have, the more precisely we could deploy. Our crime prevention, they offer security surveys. This is a free service offered by this agency. And what do? They identify security vulnerabilities within residential homes, and then they recommend corrective actions. But it's a free service, right? Like, take advantage of those things. There's always dialogue internally between residents in these buildings. And they may say, yeah, you know what? I didn't find this in my mailbox either. And that conversation has to evolve into making the police department aware of it, because we could offer these type of services, right? And then it may be small corrective actions that avoid any potential further reoccurrences. Why is it important? Why? Because even though at the end of the day, the financial institution is going to forgive the charge, right? We all know that because you didn't make the charge. But think about the time and effort you need to spend on the phone, arguing with the bank, trying to explain the situation, then going to the police department. Like, if we employ some of these measures that are available, it'll save everybody a lot of time. Catalytic converters, we spoke about that last time, something that has not only been a trend here in Bushwick, but really citywide. We're working on getting our crime prevention division and our community affairs bureau here into Bushwick to do a VIN-etching event. We're working on, and when we have that time, place, and date, obviously we'll provide that. However, in the interim, on Saturday, October 18th, between 10 o'clock a.m., 1 p.m., there's going to be a VIN-etching event in the confines of the 7-7 precinct, not too far away, 671 Prospect Place. They're going to be offering out free steering wheel locks to Toyotas, Hyundais, and Honda vehicles, and then free VIN-etching to catalytic converters for all vehicles. And just so everybody's aware, right, that's that device that's under a vehicle, and there's some like particles of gold flakes in there with the way the carburetor works, and that's why it's valuable to steal, right? And then people remove that off the car. So what does the VIN-etching do? Now that piece is serialized, right? If it does happen to get removed, if it's etched with a serial number, it's something that becomes traceable and that gives further investigative leads. All right, last thing, and then I'm done, Celeste. Just as a response to what Ben has brought up. So, and you're right, this point got raised previously, and I probably could have been better prepared at that time you're right, because I'll be honest, I'm always very transparent. I probably could have been a little better prepared to speak about the topic, but, fair enough. And we've done our due diligence and our research, and I want to bring back some data here and just to speak about it a little bit more at length. So this e-bike enforcement policy, designed solely to strengthen, improve, and enhance traffic and street traffic for pedestrians and vehicle operators alike. Where does this come from? It comes from forums like this, community councils, community boards, block associations meeting, right? Where microphones get passed along the room when people have questions or the concerns for the police department to address. And that's where this issue gets brought up. It is exactly in forums like this. So how do we address the reckless operation of some of these electric bikes? Well, let's look at it real time. It's not something that's going to generate a 911 call, right? Or 311 call, because let's put ourselves in that situation. We're approaching a crosswalk, getting ready, right? We have the light to cross over on a busy intersection, and we're about to step off with our children. And what happens? That bike comes right through the red light, right? That 311 call, 911 call really serves no purpose at that point, right? Because that bike is 5 or 6 blocks north of where it just was. So how could we real time better address what these people of all communities throughout the city are experiencing? And that's why they've made a shift. Not all violations, just some of the most egregious violations. Red lights, driving the wrong way down the street, or ignoring a stop sign. And why do we do this? So let's look at this fundamentally. When things are addressed via a VTL, a B summons, and that's returnable to traffic court. If I get several of these B summonses, I choose not to happen, what happens to me at that point? I'll tell you what happens here at that point. You fail to pay fines, your license gets suspended. So now let's look at that distinction. I'm operating a vehicle down a city street. I refuse to pay the last several summonses that I was issued as an operator of a motor vehicle. My license is suspended. I now run that next red light. I'm pulled over by law enforcement, and what happens? Exactly. You get arrested. Now, what does operating an e-bike preclude? You don't need to have a driver's license to operate an e-bike. So if your license is suspended and you just went through that fourth red light as an e-bike operator, having a license is no deterrent to the action. It makes the enforcement really worthless if you really think about it, right? Enforcement is a deterrent to an action. If the enforcement is worthless, then what's the point of issuing the summons? You had to change the approach in order to correct the condition. And the conditions get brought to us through communities. And to the point of traditional pedal bikes, you're 1,000% right. And the data here shows that since the policy has began, 90% of the criminal court summonses have been issued to e-bike riders, right? So I think that answers out that concern that it should only be geared towards e-bike riders when we could show that 90% of those summonses has been given to the e-bikes as opposed to traditional pedal bicycles. Now, when an individual appears in summons court, what happens? Like the judge, they have substantial discretion on how they want to adjudicate the offense. A lot of times they'll dismiss the case if the individual stays out of trouble for the next 6 months. But when you don't answer a criminal court summons, what happens? You get a warrant. Exactly, Elvina. You get a warrant. That's the deterrent that makes you have to answer that summons. The B summonses, there's no further action that forces you to address it. There's no deterrent to that behavior because if my license gets suspended, it has no ability to affect the way I operate that e-bike. And again, to be very, very specific, only the most egregious offenses, red lights, stop signs, traffic control devices, reckless driving, which was always addressed by a C summons. You know, vehicle, e-bike, reckless driving, VTL 1212 was always addressed through a criminal court summons. Now they just open the pot a little bit more to identify what's the most egregious and how can we do it to now deter this behavior, because public safety will always come first. And they're going to continue the e-bike strategy for the C summonses for the most egregious offenses. And just to conclude, obviously, we all know, October 24th, the new law goes into effect, 15 miles an hour for e-bikes. Agency-wide, DOT has already been conducting education, but it's again forums like this where we could pass that message forward a little more. And then to answer your concern back there, according to the Office of Court Administration, under New York State and federal court order, ICE cannot make a civil arrest in or on the property where a New York State courthouse is located. So that's irregardless of what court you're returning to. They do not, under federal law, have the ability to do that. And furthermore, even with the criminal court summons, there's no fingerprinting associated with that. Right? So you're not entered into a database. There's the fingerprints that made it. It's just the summons. And where do we see, data? Let's talk about data. So command-wise, A3 precinct over the past month, only 14 summonses have been issued to e-bike riders, criminal court summonses. Not a tremendous amount, but you know how we know it's the correct touch? Out of those 14, 12 were for red lights, 2 were for operating the wrong way. Where do we see that data now forward? We look at our collision statistics, right? And we compare since this policy has went into effect to the time frame as of last year in 2024. Where do our e-bike collision statistics refer to over the past month? This past month, 2025, 0 e-bike collisions compared to 2 at this time last period. And it's only 2. Well, you know what? That's 2 less people that got clipped by an e-bike going 30 miles an hour through a red light. So I think that lays it out. I don't think it's an overly abrasive approach. Like I said, I have 14 summonses. We did more on Wyckoff, right, for what people brought up here. But I really wanted to provide the response, right? Because your question and your point of view deserve the response. So I want to make sure we provided as cohesive as a response today. And I'll open up to any questions.
Felix Ceballos, CB4 member. Hello, Inspector. Thank you for the wonderful job you do for the community. My question is, when we're talking about robbery, and they went to inside of the house and they take a jewelry from there. I know some of them, they go to some place, to a pawn shop or some place to sell that jewelry or get money from that jewelry. Do you have some process or some rule for those play they accept the juries? Thank you.
Yeah, so there's kind of a two responses to that. First, and this is publicly available for all, not just law enforcement. There's a internet webpage called Leads Online where you could track property being stolen, right? Like you identify Officer Kovalchik just created a burglary at 480 Knickerbocker, right? You can now run her name and see if she fenced or sold any property from that crime. So that's one way we could identify where property is getting stolen. And you know, we gather intelligence. Like we know that crimes get committed and then this property has to go somewhere. And part of our Intel Bureau's process is what? Is to identify locations that may be illegally, right, allowing this property to be sold in, whether it's cell phone, whether it's jewelries, and then we'll vet out that information through mechanisms we have in place. So yeah, it's really a two-part response to that. Thank you.
Yeah. So, Pablo Rivera, Community Board 4 member. So, I want to say that you said there was only two, right? I think that's two because those are the ones that are reported.
Sure, absolutely.
Because
but that's all we could speak to, right? The data has to be based on reports that come forward.
Last month and now, I saw a e-bike get hit actually by one of those little mopeds, right? And in front of my house just last week, there've been two right there on the corner of Wilson and Putnam.
Right. Well, those are going to be mopeds, and e-bikes are going to be classified in two different ways. Like I want to speak specifically toward e-bikes, but you're right.
Yeah.
Like, listen, zero could with just data, what's reported. I could speak to what's reported. We knew we had two. Now we know we have zero.
Yeah, they're just running the lights. It's really crazy. So I think that this eventually, I was just telling Ben, it's going to solve itself because there are going to be so many bicyclists getting hurt by bicyclists that they themselves going to have to say, hey, wait a minute, something needs to be done. And about this criminalizing, the problem with decriminalizing, well, you just said it, is that there's going to be no accountability. You don't have a license plate. There's no way you're going to get a summons at home. How do we make sure that you're going to pay that ticket? You could get 10 of them. There's no way we don't have an address for you. So I think that, yes, we should think very, very carefully before we vote on decriminalizing this.
Over here, and I got Ms. Ina Bennett, a parliamentarian. We two, and then
How you doing? Christopher Graham, CB4. I don't know if I necessarily have a question. I guess it's more so in terms of trying to organize and help people to understand in terms of the bicycles, right? So for instance, in order to drive a car, you have to get a license.
Correct.
You have to take a test and you have to go through all of those things.
You have to be insured.
Huh?
Right. You have to be insured in case
Right.
you cause property damage, bodily injury.
So
you have to
there-
be an insured driver as well.
Right. So there is no way that when the police pull you over, you can't say, hey, I didn't know I was supposed to stop at that red light.
Right.
Right. So now I guess my question is there a law on the books for bicyclists that says that they have to stop? And the reason why I asked that is because yes, you have gig workers who are working every day and they're out there and yeah, they kind of hear it in the streets. But what about Jane and Bob, who's an occasional bike rider?
Mhm.
They may say, hey, I just ride my bike. I didn't know I was supposed to stop at the red light. So how do we kind of regulate that so that there is something on the books so that everybody is aware?
So, I mean, obviously the responsibility starts on the individual at first, right? You're going to partake in action. You should know what are the rules and regulations that come forth with that action. I think conversations and dialogue such as this kind of pass that education forward, which is important as well. And listen, like in regards to, we brought up the point of the delivery people working with e-bikes and stuff like that. Like, we just dealt with an unattended e-bike theft pattern going on along Wyckoff Avenue, where our NST guys made a phenomenal apprehension of for somebody who was doing e-bike thefts from here to the 112 precinct in Queens. So, we look at all approaches when it comes to what's going on with the e-bikes, and it's really that multi-layered approach. Like everything is important or nothing's important. Cut me off.
Joanna Bennett, a CB4. Deputy Inspector, am I correct that what you're suggesting that we need a license, that our elected officials need to get laws that talk about e-bikes and that they should be licensed, because without that, there is no enforcement of the law? Am I correct that what you're pretty much suggesting that our elected officials need to get on this?
No. Yeah, I can get me on a mic there. I'm not making any suggestions. I'm just telling you what it is. That people who drive e-bikes do not have to be licensed. So the issuance of those VTL summons do not. However it takes to be interpreted, that I can't control. But I want to be specific in what the dialogue is. It's not here to build an opinion, to increase perception. Like it's just facts. I'm only here to state facts. Thank you.
Hi, it's Courtney Henley, Community Board 4 again. Yeah, I have to agree. I think that we do need to push for laws to have licenses, because I've seen people doing all kinds of crazy stuff, running through lights, driving the wrong direction. And half of the people don't even speak English that are riding the bikes, especially the Uber delivery people. So they don't know the stop signs and all of that. So I think that we do need to start pushing for licenses.
Last.
I yeah, I have a question. Yeah, I'm gonna say my name. Just relax. I haven't said. My name is Juan Serra. I'm CB4. I was wondering, crashes involving bikes since 2014 have killed 11 New Yorkers, and in that same time frame, 1,359 people were killed by cars. I'm wondering if the license and the insurance and all of the things that you are saying are a deterrent of cars killing people, and why do you think that the criminal summons would do something in the terms of making people more secure, more safe, sorry, if you give criminal summons to bikes while you're not giving the same criminal summons to cars?
I think I answered that in the purpose of you have to be licensed to operate a vehicle. You don't have to be licensed to operate an e-bike if based upon what? Well, I just gave you 0 versus 2. And I'll pass it back to you then. What's the answer? Okay. Okay. But I did, like I specifically explained the purpose of if the license can't be suspended, how do you deter the action? Like that was in the dialogue of what. So, I just want to make clear that, if I'll repeat it if necessary, that's no problem. But I think that point got across.
I just want to reiterate that this is clearly a subject that requires more discussion, and that discussion is best suited for the committee meeting.
I guess we'll make a recommendation that we should table this at the time. Yeah, there is one. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody.
It is 8:20, and we will now move on to the next committee report. That's Economic Development, Housing and Land Use. Anne?
Hi, everybody. Ann Guiney, Economic Development and Housing and Land Use Committee. And I just wanted to, before we get into the report, briefly say thank you very much to everybody for your kind words and condolences. It meant a lot. So we met on September 30th, and we had a primary piece of business, which is a very preliminary presentation of a project proposed for 946 to 954 Flushing Avenue. The picture, you're not going to be able to see it, and we're going to be talking about this a lot more in committee as well. It's right sort of diagonal across from Boar's Head. It's in front of PSA 3, the police station, and right on Flushing Avenue. It is currently a sort of 1.5-story manufacturing building and has been for many, many years, and is zoned M11. The proposal is to rezone it to what they would like to rezone it to R9A or R9D. These are big rezonings, and just for the massing study so that folks can see it. So the request is for an 18 at the low end or 21-story building at the high end. And as I think everybody knows, that is dramatically taller than anything nearby. I think taller than even the Bushwick houses, which are really down by the hospital. So not even immediately next door. So we had a very robust discussion that their proposal involves carving off a back chunk of it and giving that away to a not-for-profit developer or to somebody. And then they would just do a standard mandatory inclusionary housing proposal, which those numbers would look like their MIH, as we just say quickly for that, is that it would have, let's see, a percentage of basically a quarter of the units in their building would be affordable at 60 to 80% AMI, and then the rest of it would be fully market rate. And then what they are asking for, and they said they wanted to go that high so they could get more units that are affordable, and then carve off this much smaller lot in the back, give it to somebody. The rationale is that they can't get high levels of affordability without government subsidy without doing that. We did, in our very robust discussion, say, forgive us, but it would still require government subsidy. There's the MIH, but very specifically in dollars, in that who is paying for this lot? How are we guaranteeing it? How is this happening? Why do they have to be separate? Is this functionally different from the old-fashioned pour door, which we all hated and never want to see come back? Why are these separated? Why can't it be in the same building? So it was a very robust conversation. It was very, I'm not sure cordial is the right word, but it was robust. And they said, we will either come back to you if we think we can do this or not. And we said, you should certainly come back to the committee, because as this stands, and we had a very brief discussion at the end, I suspect that this community board would not support the project as it was presented. Obviously, I am one person, not the whole committee and then the board. So I think what we have to do is we will be discussing this on the 30th. That will be part of it, is to really look through the proposal and to pull apart the numbers and really drill deep, because the affordability that was presented to us struck me as somewhat illusory and not guaranteed at all. Whereas when we are working with developers who have already formed a relationship with a not-for-profit developer and have a partner, they already know the numbers they're targeting. And, these projects take sometimes 10 years. Numbers do shift a little bit based on funding mechanisms from the city. But it was a little concerning to many members of the committee, myself very much included, that it was being like, you're never going to get anything better than this, that sort of energy of like, we can walk away. And it's like, well, you have to do what's right for you, and the community board has to do what's right for the community board and for, by extension, the whole community. So again, I think we will be talking to them. And we're always happy to talk to people with proposals, and always appreciate people coming early so that we can help to really clarify what it is as a community that we would be willing to do. And everybody knows we need more affordable housing. That's not the question. The question is, if we are going to support a ULURP, the trade-off of public good for private benefit has to make sense for everybody involved. So that's sort of where we left it. We will be having yet another robust conversation on the 30th. Come one, come all, as ever. So that was that. Then we went on to there was a presentation of 630 Bushwick Avenue earlier this spring. It's that chunk of Bushwick Avenue right at, I believe, at Myrtle. What's that? Oh, at Troutman, and it's two gas stations, an auto body shop, and something. And I can't remember what the car wash. Okay. So it's a funny little triangle. The lease on one of the gas stations is up. What they'd like to do is turn it into housing. We were actually very receptive to that proposal, and we will be discovering, there weren't heavy specifics at that point, and we said do better on the affordability, and we're happy to keep talking. So we are going to be covering that again. So again, these are all preliminary things. The one on Flushing Avenue is so preliminary that, there's nothing to vote on and would not be. It seems quite speculative in a lot of ways. Whereas I think that the Bushwick Avenue one is a little further along. And I think we've had a chance to talk about it more. We had a lot of committee mail because we had the whole summer. We have so much mail that I'm not going to run through it because we have been, but there's just a lot going on. As ever, we always welcome everyone, members of the board and the community, to please join us last Tuesday of the month, every month, 6 p.m. over 1472. So please join us because it's going to be a hot one. So.
Thank you, Ann. Just
Any questions? Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So just a point of information, it's October 28th. That's the last Tuesday of the month. Yeah, 1420 Bushwick.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I'm tired.
You have some questions or comments?
Any questions, comments?
Phyllis Ceballos again. No, I want to say something also. Those projects, the one in Bushwick and in Mira Avenue, they say they're going to take a lot of time because it's like you said before, it's two gas stations there. And, in that kind of situation, the ground can be contaminated. And that's why they're going to take a lot of time for make that project.
Exactly. Thank you. Any other questions on any of the information presented? Ben?
Hi, Ben Tucker, community board member. I wanted to know about the 640 Bushwick presentation. I was there in the original presentation. How did that go from a 6-story building to a 12-story building?
I haven't seen the.
I thought I saw in the report that they were going to change the program that they were going.
I think, and this is something that we're going to have to discuss at the next. I'm guessing, because we talked only very briefly about it is that we had said we want to see deeper affordability and more affordable units. And so they probably just went up. And I think that's certainly a conversation to have about this project too. However, is that, their stated rationale for saying we want 21 stories on Flushing Avenue is because they say, well, you said you want affordability and a lot of affordability. So we're just going to, build to the heavens. And so I think that's the idea. But that's also, this is a community-wide conversation that we need to have because, as somebody who spent a lot of time working on the Bushwick community plan, height limits are something that was also really important to people. Flushing Avenue is not one of the places where people were particularly interested in height limits, you know, based on what was in the plan. But I think height in general is based anecdotally on, you know, coming to these meetings for 15 years or however long, is very tall buildings tend to raise eyebrows.
Yeah, and that makes sense. Like Flushing Avenue would be less out of character because there's not like
Exactly.
residential, but Bushwick
Yeah.
Avenue, I live on Bushwick Avenue in this
Yeah,
six-story building.
very
The
out of-
tallest
yeah.
building on my block. So to have-
Exactly. So I think that, you know, make sure you come to that, and we can, if anybody has concerns after, this is in our, this whole big proposal is in our, committee folder. And so members are absolutely, I encourage people to look through it and to read through it. It's presented by the developer. So it's like, hey, this is the best idea ever. So, you know, just read it with that in mind. But there are all the diagrams and their somewhat speculative numbers are in here and worth taking a look at. Any other questions?
Elaine Hamilton, Community Board 4. What is the name of the project that you just mentioned?
We're just use the addresses, not, there's no name per se.
What's the
But there's
address?
946 to 954 Flushing Avenue. And then there's 620 Bushwick Avenue, right? So those are the two. Okay, great. And yeah,
someone-
and the last thing.
Someone on Zoom.
Was someone on Zoom? Great.
Yeah, I actually own 964 Flushing and I live there. The project was produced and presented by the owner of the building, or was it a developer that is partnering with the current owner? I'm just curious.
It was the land use lawyer and one of the current owners was there. And so and yes, you are a neighbor of mine. And what I recall from 10 years ago when they presented before is trying to team up two properties, one which is now the old City Bike storage facility, and then this site. And so it seems like they're no longer teaming up though. So it was just this, and he said, you know, we haven't been able to do anything for 10 years. And we said, okay. But you know, so that's basically, yeah, it was, the developer was there.
Thank you.
And his name is in the notes. It's escaping me at the moment. But yeah. Yeah. Anybody else?
No, I think that is it.
No other
Thank you.
hands.
Great. Well, thanks everybody. And I will see you on the 28th.
Yes.
Thanks, Ann.
Hi, Annette Spellin, Chair for the Civic Public Safety, Religious Health, Human Services, Senior Citizens, Veterans Committee. We met on Thursday, October 9th, and we didn't have a quorum because we only had Trevor Campbell, not Trevor, no. We had Elvina Davis, Zachary Hendrickson, Jose Luisa, and Eunice Santiago. So we didn't have a quorum because those who are on the committee did not show up. We had a presentation by Jeremiah Cedeno, Program Manager, Policy and Strategy, Vibrant Emotional Health. The presentation was in reference to the organization and its role administering the National 988 Suicide Lifeline and NYC 988. The 988 program provides free 24/7 365-day mental health support to New Yorkers in crisis. And that is ranging from severe emotional distress to everyday challenges, including those with special needs. He emphasized that a lack of public awareness about 988, especially in Brooklyn, was highlighted, and the ongoing outreach efforts to the community. Our next presenter was Nia Smith from the Brooklyn Youth Against Substance Misuse Coalition. And she was there to present that the efforts by the coalition to prevent substance misuse among LGBTQIA plus youth in Brooklyn. And she mentioned that she described the coalition reducing alcohol access for minors, which works with local businesses to strengthen policies and prevent underage alcohol sales, especially in Bushwick, an area identified as having a high accessibility and use by our youth. Ms. Smith discussed offering resources like ID scanners to businesses, policy advocacy to lower exposure to alcohol advertising, and community building events providing substance-free, safe spaces for young people. After her, we had Juan Manasalello, who is who represented Councilwoman Jennifer Guerrero's office. And Juan was there to describe the office's creation and distribution of the fire guide. It turns out that the fire department is going to be distributing free fire smoke detectors, but they're not going to hand them out this year because in the past they were handing them out and they were being sold. So now you have to make an appointment. We have some flyers here. We'll put them out for those who might want them. He further stated that on November 15th at Maria Hernandez Park, there will be fire and safety and e-waste collection. And what else? And he also reviewed efforts to assist tenants facing heat and gas issues during the winter, including connections to legal aid and organized tenant resources. We had 3 pieces of mail. We had no recommendations, no old business. The only new business we had was the new business was we had 2 fires. One September 15th at 1415 Gates Avenue, the 3rd floor of a 3-story dwelling. 2 reported injuries there. And October 7th, a fire at 479 Central Avenue, 3rd floor, no civilian injuries reported. Let's see, the only announcements we have was that Cooper Street Block Association's biannual bowling tournament was last Saturday. And that was it. Are there any questions?
Going once, going twice? All right. Thank you, Ms. Spellin. Next.
Good, I hope. My name is Stephanie Anderson. I'm the chairperson of the Arts, Culture, and Technology Committee. And I'd just like to share some interesting news about what's going on in our community or nearby as of late. Film production is growing immensely in Brooklyn, with new studios soon to set to open in Red Hook and Bushwick, Brooklyn, or shall we say our nearby neighbor, Williamsburg. It's kind of debatable because in the articles, several articles, they named Bushwick, but let's see by the addresses. These Brooklyn sites are located at 176 Dykeman Street, as well as 242 Siegel Street. These 2 locations will be branded as Echelon Studios. It was estimated that each location could generate approximately 2,400 jobs generated by construction and operations. Altogether, this is a $552 million project supporting construction and high-end film and television production studios in Brooklyn. These two sites are approximately 600,000 square feet. Filming in Bushwick. From October 3rd to the 13th, a film called The Man I Love was filmed on Jefferson Street in between Bushwick Avenue and Myrtle Avenue, Troutman Street between Bushwick and Evergreen Avenues, and Bushwick Avenue between Melrose and Troutman. In addition, from October 15th to 16th, a film called Adulting was filmed on Stockholm Street between Knickerbocker and Wilson Avenues. We are collaborating with Bushwick Star in hosting the Emergent City documentary. This documentary, focused on the Sunset Park, Brooklyn area, shows how the community and their community board can rise up together and fight for change and achieve an amazing amount of it. So please join us for the Emergent City documentary on November 16th at 2 p.m. Final details are soon to come, so please stay tuned for more details. Thank you so much.
All right, Ms. Jones had to leave, but there was only one other item on their meeting agenda from Monday, September 22nd. Mr. Camacho, is it okay if I summarize briefly? Okay. So, representative from the Independent Budget Office presented a school budget workshop. It was modified to meet the committee's structure and essentially explained what the Independent Budget Office does and walk through how to navigate the school budget. So this is relevant when we talk about district needs. We know that there's a community education council. It's a separate process, although we work very closely together with the District 32 office, with the Community Education Council. And of course, it's just great to have access to that information, to know how our schools are spending money, to know what money they're receiving. And the workshop walked committee members through that. I know they appreciated it so much. There was a recommendation to have that referred to a public hearing item. I will work with Ms. Jones to see how is best to make sure that more individuals are able to access that workshop. And I have not reviewed the committee mail, but I encourage everyone to take a look at everything else in the report. And I believe that that covers the most important subjects. So that concludes this report. Any questions for myself or Stephanie? All right. We will move on. I believe that concludes our committee reports this evening. And next we have our chairperson's report, Mr. Camacho.
Hi, well, I attended several meetings. It was pretty good, short, but because we had a lot of budget consultations, meeting me and Celeste from 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock. So on the 18th, that Thursday, from 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m., we met with HRA, DHS, EDC, DYCD, DOH&H. At 5:30, that same day, I went to Borough Hall to swear in all the board members that were sworn in. Thank you. I saw you guys there. We took a nice picture. Somebody got a picture. I don't know where is that, but I know we took a picture together. And we took and on Friday the 19th, Friday, I went to the CC. Yeah, 125 Culvert. That Saturday, the 20th at 11, I went to the arts on Irving. And I saw Celeste there. We did a mural. It was really nice. I think it's still up. I'm not too sure if it rained that day. They were supposed to put a covering on the park, so I don't know what occurred to that. Maybe we'll have the guy, friends of, come and tell us what's going on or show us pictures. I know they took it on Monday the 22nd, 6 p.m. Arts and Culture, Technology, and Youth and Education. On Tuesday the 23rd, from 2 to Puente, the People's guys. So we're going to be from 25 to 26. I also had the AD ad hoc budget at 6 o'clock, 9:25 at 6 on Monday the 20th. CB4 Transportation Committee on Tuesday the 30th at 9 o'clock. We had budget consultation, as you know. That was the 30th from 9 to 5. We had DSNY, FTNY, SC, NYPD, and HPD. On Tuesday, that same day at 6, I went to, I was on Zoom I know some of the boards got on a workshop with the SLA on Zoom. I don't know if it was good for you guys, but it was a little crazy on my end in regards to the 500-foot rules and how they implement it. Maybe we need to and fight with our elected officials to change the process of them making they're getting paid in order to revamp that whole thing, because I don't understand any of that. So state authority. The state liquor authority. All right, I'm used to saying that. October 1st, Wednesday, from 12 to 2. Cops and kids, for please, guys, get involved. Cops when they do something wrong, but when they volunteer and they want to come and give coffee, let me tell you, it was very turned out in front of that precinct. We had at least 40 or 30 people coming out there with the cops and drinking coffee, and believe me, it was good. We had CBOs there. Come on out, that's your precinct. That's our precinct. Regardless, they go and get what stays there. That precinct. That's your precinct. Your taxpayer. Don't turn around and say, I'm scared. I don't like the police. Guess what? They may not like you, but you got to tell them they work with you. You taxpayers. So you pay their bills. So we're not here for popularity contest. We're here to make sure they do their job and respect us. So that's what we got to do, because I may work with them and help them, but when they do something bad, I go in there and bang them too. So it goes both ways on Tuesday. That was October. And then that same day at 7, me and Celeste from 7 to 10, our chair, she was the arts and culture. Yeah, Koebe, I don't know how to say it last. She had an art thing. It was wonderful. 18 groups. I didn't even know it was that long, man. Bishop Film Festival was on for 18 years. Couldn't believe it, man. It was in Lot 45. Raymond let them use the place. It was really well attended. We had a lot of fun there. Me and Celeste were there all day. October 7th on Tuesday, CB4, Brooklyn Borough Board meetings. At the there were two recommendations. I just want to let you guys know this, because we talk about some of the parks sometimes and people that get involved now, but there's two presentation, a proposal, design, explanation, city urban design principle, the Prosper Park Alliance proposed construction of the restroom to provide the services and amenities on the east side of the park for visitors of Carousel, Leffers House Zoo, and the park gym rotating the existing restroom, meaning they want to fix the restroom, this update mechanical infrastructure of the building and make it to address the leaking and all the old conditions and address the preservation of the existing historical facility. This place has been there since 1913. Since 1977 years, it haven't get fixed. From 1990, they fixed it to now 1925, 30 years nothing has been done. So I'm saying they got $1.9 million. I don't know where they get that money to fix that, but I know it's in alliances, and so 35 years that bathroom ain't been fixed. Plus 77 years from 1913 to 1990, and I did the math and I said, what were they doing? Parks with the money, and what was going on all that time? Because if you're that long and you see it decaying, I understand that, but they said that they were doing odds and ends and patchworks. So I don't know how much patchwork they did from that time to that time. Now it's in disrepair. So that's what happens when we don't plan ahead and make sure that our parks and our infrastructure is taken care of. On the 8th, on Wednesday at 10:30, there's the service cabinet. On the 9th, Thursday, 4 p.m. to 6, I went to the fair on Cooper Street, District 32. They had a fair. It was very well attended. A lot of schools were there. A lot of kids came down. Cheerleading, all the schools were there. October 14th, Tuesday meeting between 2 and 3. On Myrtle Avenue Golf Task Force. Myself, Celeste, and all our elected officials met on Myrtle Avenue because there were several complaints in regards to the filthiness, the smell, the darkness, and everything. I had to tell them how I felt. I knew the precinct was there, but you know what's so funny? Y'all gonna really laugh. The 104 precinct only had 2 complaints on that plaza. 311 complaint. Two complaints. The A3 had tons. Of course, that's Queens. That's right. They say this is Brooklyn side. They send them to our precinct, the A3. And guess what our A3 precinct has to do? The same people that we're talking about, the Latinos and Black that are there selling, they got to start buying them with tickets. They don't want to. So, for 37 times from January to October, taking care of the problems in that plaza that's been going on. Urination, selling drugs, frying food, frying things that we can't eat. The health department not there, so now they take they only been there 37 times. I was a little concerned about that. And only our precinct, but the 104 didn't do a task force there. But guess what they do though? They have a bid on Wyckoff, on Myrtle. They have a bid. So in the bid, what they do is when they want to do services, you need $1 million bond in order to do programming on that Wyckoff Plaza. $1 million bond. $1 million just to do programming. But the one of Queens can do it because they have the insurance. They use it through the bid. They do their programming. They dump the garbage on us. Now we're responsible. But guess what? Community Board 4 did not vote for that plaza. Queens voted for that plaza and they gave it to Queens. And I exactly told DOT and the commissioner that we shouldn't be picking up the brunt because our officers, because our side is getting bombarded with drugs, garbage, urine, feces, everything on that plaza over there. And the 104 is not helping us. So we need services from Queen, and we want them to start cleaning up that place too, not only us. And that's exactly what I told all our elected officials. And I thank them for holding that. The 104. I was there getting the blessings at the same time CB4 and that concludes my report. Any question? Seeing none, thank you.
All right, we will move on now to my report. So good evening, everyone. Happy belated Indigenous Peoples and Italian American Heritage Day. This month is also Breast Cancer Awareness Month, Health Literacy Month, and National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. I hope you've been able to enjoy the change in seasons and related activities. A light reminder that the board welcomed a record-breaking 17 new members last spring. Additionally, there are several new committee chairs actively learning about committee leadership. As we near board member term limits, I encourage members to learn from each other and better understand their role. Board members at their best are appointed to reflect the diversity of the district and express the viewpoints of community members with similar experiences. It is easy for some to reduce the board to a checkbox to assert their opinion or advance an agenda. However, a truly representative board will carefully consider and advise on how to best represent the entire district. As some may know, Bushwick is unique in many ways, but I'm just focusing on one, as it's the only neighborhood within Community District 4. CB4 is no stranger to disagreement, tension, and conflict. What distinguishes the board historically and in the present is strong, impartial leadership and deep love of community in all its forms. Everyone that has committed time to be part of those conversations is part of that. I thank you all and encourage you to continue holding each other accountable and representing, fun fact, the geographical heart of the city. And then below is the overview of the meetings that I attended. I'm just going to highlight a few. Mr. Camacho's already mentioned some of them that I've highlighted. We've participated in the El Puente Citywide Participatory Budget Coalition meeting. They continue their efforts. We also spoke with Emily Kurtz from Riseboro. She flagged that NYCHA, New York City Housing Authority, released a request for expressions of interest, also known as an RFEI, and this is for potential development on NYCHA land. So ongoing conversations will be had in the Housing and Land Use Committee. I also spoke with the representative from the Office of Management and Budget. This is specifically in reference to the Future of Community Boards Working Group, which includes district managers citywide. There's interest in meeting with them to address questions that are coming from the community boards about community board operations. I was able to clarify the purpose of that meeting, and there will hopefully be follow-up soon. I also spoke with Kim from the board's office about developing a social media plan for the board. It's been a long time. We've had to adjust with new staff hires, but now we've reached a point where everyone is familiar with their roles and we're able to continue expand and help bring additional social media offerings to the board's work. And then on the 1st of October, the Commission on Racial Equity had a virtual share out, just updating the public on what they've been working on. On October 2nd, I spoke with Ben Solitaire from the Civic Engagement Commission. He had questions about their citywide participatory budget process and how community boards or why community boards don't participate. I essentially told him that the Civic Engagement Commission was tasked with carrying out this process. The boards were not funded to carry out this process. So it's a little bit ironic to ask an entity that was not funded to do work for free when you were paid to do it. I think he got it when I said it that way. But I think ultimately his goal was just to ensure that the community board is involved, that is able to participate, and recognizes that there are limitations naturally. I encouraged him because what we see now is they will fund a project, but let's say it's wonderful, phenomenal. 7 youth have their lives changed forever. There's no guarantee that money is coming back, right? It could just be that one time. And so what I said is there a way that the Civic Engagement Commission can support the board's district needs process and say, hey, listen, we had this remarkable program. Maybe you want to put this in your district needs or budget requests. So we'll see how that goes. And I have been receiving a montage of student reporter requests for different things, sanitation, housing, a lot of very eager graduate students trying to understand not only their role as future journalists and reporters, but issues happening in Bushwick. I spoke with Randall Toure from Riseboro in reference to community engagement. They would like to bring back, some of you may remember the Brooklyn Unidos meetings that they held. So we're talking about what topics might be covered. All of those ideas have largely been discussions that have happened at the board level. I spoke with a rep from city planning, the planning support team, in reference to community district needs and ideas. We have a budget request reference guide, which includes all of the requests that any board can make. I had a suggestion for how we can improve that list, as there's been an indication that it's insufficient or it doesn't reflect the needs that the boards currently have. And then I also spoke with some folks from the Living City Project. There was a check-in. If you remember, this was the group where they had at least, I would say, 15 youth from different, backgrounds participating in a fellow type project for the board. They helped develop some marketing materials for the office. And Mr. Camacho mentioned the Myrtle Wyckoff Task Force. Just want to emphasize, similar to Green Central Knoll, these are ongoing conversations. We've been having these same conversations like several times a year, and unfortunately, we often receive the same responses from the agencies. And what was particularly discouraging about this meeting is that most of the agencies showed up without having information prepared. Mr. Camacho was very clear that that was unacceptable, and the council members echoed that sentiment. And within the next few minutes, numbers started appearing. The numbers just magically appeared. And so we really want to emphasize that we know when we receive these complaints that something is happening. You may not always hear live updates, but there are people paying attention to this, and hopefully we can get some real solutions. And one thing Mr. Camacho left out is that will be closed off at some point, because they will be constructing a permanent plaza. And we have to deal with the reality of when it's closed, where will some of those folks go? And that's part of the conversation that's happening now.
For me to interrupt, in 2 years, you could build the bridge. In 2 years, they're gonna do a plaza, put some man in. Why it takes 2 years? The permanent plaza on Wyckoff. It took a long time to get that. And we said 2 years.
So we'll need to refer that to committee for further questioning. I held back some of my questions to not open cans of worms on that meeting. And that concludes my report. Thank you, everyone. All right, recommendations. I believe there's only the one. And there was a suggested recommendation from earlier, but I'll let Ben reiterate.
Do I need to read the whole recommendation or are we just going to vote to table it?
So, I mean, that's up to, someone like to make a motion? James Stewart's moves to table, so table refer back to committee. Is that okay? And second by Mr. Ceballos. Let me just write this down so I have this for my notes. It's just one. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions?
In opposition.
Okay. Okay. One moment, please. Yep, give me 1 second. I have Ben. Can you say names, please, so I can write them down? Okay. Okay. I have 3 opposed so far. Ben, Juan, and Nancy. Anyone else opposed? None on Zoom? Going once, going twice? Okay, motion carries.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. If I can add, I'd love to invite anybody to come to the committee meeting so we can have more
We can
viewpoints.
also discuss polling
Mhm.
ideas just to make sure we're getting feedback.
Okay, thanks.
All right. It's unscheduled, so not yet. Okay, so let's see. We have any other recommendations going once, going twice? I don't think there are any from committees. All right, any old business going once, going twice? Hearing none, seeing none on Zoom. New business going once, going twice? Hearing none. Announcements.
Annette Spellin, just want to remind everyone that Sunday is the Making Strides Against Breast Cancer walk in Central Park. The entrance to the park will be at West 67th Street, and the time is 8 a.m. from 8 to noon. So if you have some time, come on out and do a walk.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Lacey Talbert, Brooklyn Borough President's Office. I'm going to skip our normal office updates because I want to tell you about one thing that I think is really important that's happening tomorrow. So the Department of City Planning is having a town hall meeting about their draft New York City industrial plan tomorrow at St. Francis College at 179 Livingston Street at 6:30. So I just think that those of you that worked on the Bushwick Community Plan know that industrial retention was really important to that process, that group, and therefore the community. And the Department of City Planning is proposing really big changes to the industrial business zones, including allowing housing in a lot of areas. And you saw that proposal that Anne talked about today. And we're going to see a lot more of stuff like that that's really going to threaten industrial jobs and, low barrier to entry jobs for people in this community. And so if you're interested, someone who works in an industrial business or owns an industrial business or is just interested in this in general, I left some flyers for this out over there. Please come out tomorrow and talk to city planning and tell them your concerns. And if you want to know more about it, you can come talk to me after. We're working on organizing along with Councilmember Gutierrez and some other folks to have kind of a robust response to this because the timeline is very quick. They're trying to finish it basically by the end of the year. Yeah. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Lacey.
I have one very important one. I know join us at the Bushwick Hope honoring our people equity fall festival. That's the new what do you call that? We call that they got funded 959 Madison between Bushwick and Broadway. They're gonna be cutting their ribbon ceremony there. So I hope all of y'all come out. There's gonna be tours of the place, faith activities, resources. That's the new Bushwick Coalition is doing it. It's the Family Enrichment Center that they just opened. So it's going to be Saturday. That's the first enrichment center. Come by. from 11 to 3. Thank you.
Please line up for announcements. Anyone else has announcements? Or raise your hand on Zoom.
How you doing? Good evening. Raul Rubio. I'm with the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, as well as a member of the Community Board. Using my Department of Health, Mental Health hat, my unit provides mental health trainings and workshops for community as well as for nonprofits and agencies. Currently, we're running a community mental wellness and resiliency training. It's a 3-hour training that we can do virtually or in person. And given enough lead time, one of our trainers can actually provide community education, the CEC credits for social workers. So if anybody wants this training, it's absolutely free. It's provided by the city. We do it 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday. Also, if any of you have any group, a church group, social group, agency, tenants association, if you can get 15 people to 60 in a room, I will train your book club if you guys want to have a workshop on any mental health issues that are out there. So if you want to talk about understanding depression, self-care, understanding anxiety, we have trainers that can provide that as well as virtually and or in person. You just need to reach out to me. My number is 646-988-8639. And that's about it. Yes, the number is 646-988-8639. Again, Raul Rubio.
Thanks, Raul.
No problem.
Maria on Zoom.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Maria Valdez from the Office of Senator Julia Salazar. Just as a reminder, we will be joining Councilmember Sandy Nurse for the Halloween candy giveaway on October 31st from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. At the Knickerbocker Plaza. Everyone is invited to come and have some fun. Also, as a reminder, we continue to have our tenant support unit every first Tuesday of the month from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. at our office, 212 Evergreen Avenue. Or you can call our office at 718-573-1726. Thank you.
All right, I don't see anyone else on Zoom. I see no one else in person. We will move on now to the second roll call. Board members, please be ready. Linda Whitfield. Jerry Valentine.
Present. Good night, everybody.
Good night, Jerry. Ben Tucker. Christian Tate is absent. Savannah Tai. Thank you. James Stewart. B. Speederman. Annette Spellin. Juan Serra. Milagros Sandoval. Josue Salazar. Eliseo Ruiz. Raul Rubio. Pablo Rivera. Cirilo Nunez. Zuma Navoa.
Good night, everyone.
Ramika Nichols Barnes. Alex Moreno. Freddie Madison. Christine Malden. Cindy LeBron. Nancy Keith. Giovanni Justiniano is excused. Luisa Jose. Tara Jones is excused. Virgie Jones is excused. Barbara Jackson. Thanks, Barbara. Tanisha Honeygan.
Present. Good night.
Thank you. Deborah Hicks. Courtney Henley. Zachary Hendrickson is absent. Elaine Hamilton. Ann Guiney. Christopher Graham. Jason Gares. Alan Gamboa. It's absent. Joanna Fuentes Singh. Freddie Fowler. Elvina Davis. Andrew Choi. Felix Ceballos. Tevin Campbell. Robert Camacho. Joanna Bennett. Tiani Belliard. Stephanie Anderson. Isa Abni. Motion to adjourn. Joanna Bennett makes a motion, second by
I second.
Stephanie. All in
second.
favor?
Aye. Good night,
Any
everyone.
opposed? Any abstentions? So moved. It is 9:07. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Yeah, the baseball. Yeah. I'm always really. I like that.